Ashley?
Yes?
Are you ready to learn the ways of the Jedi?
Yes.
Then let's do it. Don't hit it. We're finally talking about The Last Jedi. We're probably the last people making a Last Jedi video, but we're gonna do it.
It's okay.
So, I just got it on 4K, so you finally got to watch it a second time.
Yes.
I've seen it a few times.
Right.
So what do you think? Just in general, before we get into details and a lot of spoilers for like maybe one person who hasn't seen it yet.
In general, I think it is a good movie.
A good movie.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to get a little more detailed than that. You like it.
I do like it as a movie.
As
Yeah.
Okay. Do you like it as a Star Wars movie?
Parts of it.
Parts of it?
Yes.
Do you accept it as a Star Wars movie?
Well, you have to, because it is a Star Wars movie.
That is a good point.
I mean...
That is a really good point, and it's a point I've been trying to make for quite a while.
Like...
My point is, if you're not a writer at Lucasfilm or Disney or whatever you want to call it now,
Yeah.
there's a limit to how much you have a right to complain about the story not being what you want it to be.
Correct. And that's with anything. That's not just with Star Wars.
Right. It's with anything. It's like you can become a writer if you want.
Right.
And if you want to become a Star Wars writer, you can do whatever you have to do to get to that point in life, right? Mm-hmm. But like, we're not the storytellers.
No.
And we have to accept the stories they give us. We don't have to like them.
No, we don't.
We can, we can complain and everything, but it is Star Wars. Like, whether or not you feel like Luke, for example, should have taken the route that he did, or any other characters, this is still the route they took. This is canon, and you might not agree with it, but
I mean, it's like reading a book. You might not...
it's not. You have no control over it, and you shouldn't if you're not in there.
I think some people grew up with too many choose-your-own story books.
Yeah, I think so. And I think people tend to like deify these characters, which I do want to say, like, I've been a fan of Star Wars my entire life. Mm-hmm. I mean, I saw some of the originals in theaters. I at least saw Jedi in theaters when it came out.
Right.
I don't know if I saw Empire in theaters because I would have been very small at the time, But I have a vague memory of seeing it like in theaters. Like, I always have this faint memory of seeing the Dagobah scene in theaters, but I've never known if that was a dream.
It probably was a dream knowing Mom and Dad.
Yeah, knowing well, maybe.
I mean, they were always pretty good about it, but like,
You know, I mean, they took me to Jedi.
But you had already known about Star Wars when they
Yeah,
took you to that,
but
right?
I mean, they did when I was really little. We used to go to a lot of. We saw Flash Gordon in theaters.
Okay, that's cool.
And so, you know, we'll see Flash Gordon in theaters. I don't know why we wouldn't see Empire. So
That's
it's
true.
possible.
Okay.
But anyway, point is, as a kid, I had all the action. I still have my action figures. You know, I still buy Star Wars action figures. I played with those. That's like all I used to get. I never got He-Man figures or anything else. Star Wars, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I got some other toys, but as far as action figures go, I just wanted Star Wars. And I was a nut for them. And we're talking the original classic figures, you know.
Right.
Huge Star Wars fan my whole life. And you were born later, 10 years after me.
Right. And you being a Star Wars fan, I became a Star Wars fan very early too.
Yeah.
And I have a very strong emotional attachment to the original films.
Yeah, that's true. I know that.
I mean, especially the characters, and I am a huge fan of 1970s film in itself. The grittiness of it and the just the raw look of it and the raw scripts and the raw dialogue, I would say. So, you know, I don't know. I do compare everything to the 70s films.
Yeah, everything does have a more glossy look now. A more
Right.
like,
And I hate CGI with a passion.
CGI.
So I have a big issue with that, especially in Star Wars films. I don't care if it's the lowest life form to the biggest villain. I hate it.
for the backgrounds or
I
anything.
absolutely hate it.
But you gotta admit that Disney has taken it a lot closer to an old school look than, say, even George Lucas himself
Well, yeah.
with the prequels and stuff.
I will agree with that, especially with Rogue One. I think Rogue One is my favorite of the new Star Wars.
Of the new stuff. But in general, you've liked everything that Disney has
I loved
done.
the first one, and
Force
and
Awakens.
I loved Rogue One. This one was like, I feel like I loved this one in the theater, but now,
Yeah, I remember you
Yeah,
did.
now watching it a second time, I'm like, what the hell? there are a couple of things in it that I don't know. It just it bugs me. So, but back to my Star Wars history.
Yeah, we'll get into that stuff.
So, yeah, I grew up watching Star Wars. I remember all of us camped out, you know, and I was very young watching Star Wars, the original trilogy. And I took those videos with me to college and I watched them, and I mean VHS. I watched them constantly. They were like my movies to lull me to sleep at night because I was in college and it was a horrible experience. And it was my comfort. So it wasn't that horrible. It was just college. So I don't know. But yeah, so I love Star Wars, but yeah, I don't know.
So but you love. I mean, like, I know that you're.
I don't like the prequels.
You're only really a hardcore fan of the original trilogy. You're one of those people.
I would say that.
You're willing to watch other Star Wars films pretty much one time.
I'll watch Rogue One a lot.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, that's true. I mean, we saw it in theaters like 4 times.
Yeah, and I saw the original. Okay, so this makes a good point. So I saw not the original, the latest one. The first Disney one I saw quite a few times.
Force Awakens.
Force Awakens, yeah. In the theater. And I wanted to.
Yeah, I guess we did see that one.
We saw that a lot.
That's the one that we
like
saw
3 or 4
a lot.
times.
And I think Rogue One, I'm the one who, you and I saw it like twice, and I think I
Yeah.
saw it an extra time.
And then this one, I didn't even care to go back to see it again. So
Yeah, which is interesting.
that makes the
Because you
point.
said you really loved it when you came out of the theater.
Yeah, but
And yet
maybe
I
didn't.
tried and tried to get her to go back and see it again.
Maybe I didn't really
You
love
must
it.
not have. It
No.
must have been like just reaction and then, but.
Just
I mean,
reaction of a new Star Wars thing, and then like, I don't know. But plus Carrie Fisher had just died, and so I was emotional about that, so I was hanging on to
No,
any-
that was more during Rogue One. Rogue One was in theaters when she died.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
this was like a year
I
after
don't
that.
remember.
Yeah. So yeah.
So.
But But she was on the screen this time, so she wasn't really in Rogue One. It was like a CGI one.
I guess my main point is that I'm really attached to the original characters. And that's my main point.
Yeah, but they were in this.
They were, which
and there are some really
let me tell you,
serious
those
major
are the
moments
parts
with them
that I loved.
Okay, well then let's go ahead
Except
and
for
get
a
into
couple
that.
of ones.
But like in terms of other Star Wars, just to lay it out there, you don't really watch any other Star Wars except for seeing the films one time, like the prequels. I mean, you saw them once, but you won't watch them anymore.
You know,
I've tried to get you to watch them.
I really love the ending of the
of the third prequel because it leads directly into
absolutely. I think that's great. So you watch the last 10 minutes of that one and then lead straight into the original.
Yeah.
That's the way to watch it.
But you won't watch any of the animated stuff and read any books or comics or anything.
Oh, I used to read the books a lot, actually.
Did you really?
I really enjoyed the books, yeah. I don't remember anything in them, but I do remember reading those quite a bit. Yeah. Yeah,
in the 90s, I was reading the comics like crazy and the novels. But eventually they got to a point where there was just too many coming out too fast, and I just couldn't keep up with them. And then eventually it wasn't even canon anymore when Disney bought it.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to, I don't want it in my head if it's not canon, although I've been clinging to the comics to like at least to keep them. Right now I'm even starting to think I might not keep my comics anymore, or I might cherry pick them, But
I consider myself a huge Star Wars fan, even though I don't watch a lot of things, just because I have a huge emotional investment in the original series, and I'm super attached to those. And you can be a fan and not like certain things. That's what I think.
I guess that's fair, but then there's there's the point of what makes somebody a fan, because I knew a guy who called himself a Star Wars fan. Good guy. I like this guy. He was a good guy. But in all honesty, he only liked A New Hope.
Okay.
and it's just to be a Star Wars fan who at least is interested in all aspects of Star Wars. That's really frustrating.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? It's I feel like you have no right to call yourself a Star Wars fan. But it's like,
you have to.
I'm not saying you should be the Star Wars fan who loves everything.
Right, because let me tell you something.
That interest, you have to, having that interest in.
But you have to understand, I was never a person who played with toys.
No, I know. I'm not saying you're not a Star Wars fan because you don't.
I didn't collect figures. I don't like CGI. I don't like the brightness of modern film. I really don't.
Yes.
So what the heck am I going to latch on to? The original films.
No, and
you know what I mean?
I get that. I'm not saying that a person who loves the original trilogy, that counts for me.
Yeah.
A person who only loves one movie, I don't know if they should call themselves Star Wars.
I think if they're emotionally attached to that movie and they watch it and they cry,
but
they
I would challenge anyone to find somebody who's that emotionally attached to just one of the movies.
Well, yeah.
I just don't think that's.
I don't know.
That's a thing. I'm not talking about somebody who's that attached, but I mean, there are. It's a thing that has.
Obviously, I express my love for it in different ways.
No, I mean, you love the entire original trilogy, and that's fine. Maybe I have more of an issue of fans who love the original. Well, maybe this includes you.
What?
Who love the original trilogy, but they just think that anything else is crap.
No.
That is labeled Star Wars just because it's not the original trilogy.
No, because I don't think it's crap. I mean, I enjoy.
Yeah, you enjoy parts of it. I don't know.
There are some things that I can't watch because it's agonizing as far as acting wise and quotes wise and things like that.
I get that. But there, even in this film we're going to talk about, there are a couple of things that I don't care for.
You have to understand the person, and I have acting training, so it's hard for me to watch certain things.
I totally get that. I totally get that.
I just and I don't know. There was a certain magic about the original. We've got it playing in the background right now about the original trilogy. It was just magical,
I agree.
And I wanted to watch it constantly. Especially A New Hope. I love every freaking minute of that movie. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like, I mean, I love Jedi and Empire. Like, it's just, and it's ingrained in me, and it makes you want to cry when you think about it. And like, just these characters are fantastic and amazing. And I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I want to see what happened to them, and so we're seeing that in the new ones. I have nothing against the new characters. I enjoyed watching the movie. It just wasn't as good as the original.
Yeah, but nothing's gonna be. I mean,
Right. So
you can't ever make. I mean, especially with that. I mean, you can make a great movie. I think this one's a great movie.
I think it's a great movie.
I think it's a great Star Wars movie.
Is it a great Star Wars movie?
It is a Star Wars movie.
That's the question.
I feel like if you accept it as a Star Wars movie and you think it's a great movie, how are you not saying it's a great Star Wars movie?
Because there are different levels of. I mean, is it?
No, I mean that doesn't make it the greatest. But I mean, if it's a great movie and it's a Star Wars movie,
it can be subpar Star Wars movie. I mean, it doesn't have to be great.
That's I don't know. That's a little weird, but
I mean, I enjoyed it more than hating it. So there's nothing.
Yeah, no. I mean, but that's
like
not,
I can't.
That's not calling it a great movie. That's calling it a good movie.
Sometimes I feel like watching the prequels, but for the most part, like it gets to a point where I just have to turn them off because, you know. I don't know.
I've never seen you watch the prequels except when they came out.
No, I'm not talking about me personally putting them on myself. I'm saying when you have them on, sometimes I'll sit.
Well,
and
that's
watch
what I
them
mean.
with
I've
you.
never seen you do that. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, we have marathons and we watch them.
What?
We've had marathons
we-
the past few years.
Trying to remember that.
Star Wars Day.
Yeah, I know about Star Wars Day. I just don't remember you watching the prequels with me. Okay. Well, anyway.
Jeez. You're possessive of your Star Wars.
I am.
Other people can watch it too.
I know. I would love for you to sit and watch the prequels with me.
God.
But to be honest with you, I don't love the prequels. I don't hate the prequels. There are things in the prequels that I love, or like a lot, and a few things that I love. But you know, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying a person has to love everything in Star Wars, and I certainly think that if you love the original trilogy and you're emotional about it, that you're definitely a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
No, I'm trying to say I do agree with that. Some people who just like one
I have a
movie,
lightsaber, man. Back the fuck off. Okay.
I get that, but no. Okay, so anyway, that's a background on where we're coming from.
Yeah.
You know, and so you know, as just it's just for me, it's like when somebody tells me they're a Star Wars fan, I just want to like say like, oh, let's watch the cartoons right now. I can't get her to, but anyway, so you like the Ewok movies?
I love the Ewok movies. I absolutely love the Ewok
I actually love the Ewok movies as well. Okay, so Last Jedi. Last Jedi, we start off with an opening crawl.
Right.
And the film picks up basically right after the previous film, Force Awakens, which is a first for Star Wars films. What'd you think about that? Any issues with that?
Just picking up right off.
Yeah, it's the first time, like, Star Wars films usually don't pick up,
Oh,
they
they
usually
just
pick
have
up
the-
years later or
time
something like a
period.
period later. Like,
Time frame?
quite
Yeah,
a period
I
later.
didn't have a problem with
I've
that.
heard a few complaints about that. I mean, I think it's kind of a silly thing to complain about.
That's just complaining.
It almost makes the opening crawl not necessary, but okay, but it does catch you up on things. And I think I don't know if it was the opening crawl in this that sort of, I think, made things a little clearer in terms of what has been going on, because you know, there's the whole issue of like, okay, we had the original trilogy and they defeated the Empire. Why are they still at war? Right? I mean, that's kind of a weird. Do you think that's kind of a weird thing?
I think that's weird.
That they're still fighting and destroying Death Stars and stuff, you know, basically.
No, because there's countries in our times that keep fighting and fighting and fighting constantly.
That's true. That's
so
true.
it's not a strange thing to me.
I don't know, but it kind of diminishes the big finale of the original trilogy in a little bit of a way. I think.
They do that anytime they revive this series. It always diminishes
Well,
the
that's
original.
the books that went on after the original trilogy, they came up with. There were a few that like had like, oh, the Emperor's got a clone and everything, and there were books about picking off the rest of the Empire, but then a lot of it was about building the new Republic, and just other.
I mean, there's always going to be another bad guy.
Other threats, yeah, other bad guys,
yeah.
but you know they're hanging on to very old-fashioned things like the Death Stars, and I mean, because we had another Death Star basically in Force Awakens, and then you know the Empire, it's still the Empire, whereas we had other types of villains come in with the old books.
Who came up with the Death Star in Force Awakens?
In Force Awakens, it's just this First Order just had a new one that was just bigger.
Well, I mean, this is what people do. They rehash old ideas.
I guess that's
just because they're too lazy to think up a new thing.
Well, that's what I'm trying to.
So they just make up a new Death Star.
But you're saying within the context of the film, it makes sense.
Well, I mean, it doesn't not make sense. I believe it.
No, I was just wondering. If you thought that as a plot device, they should have come up with something more original.
That would have been nice.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't not believe this because.
But I guess it makes sense that they were, as a lot of people have said, and I think it's it makes sense that they're like Disney's trying to prove with that film that they can make a Star Wars movie. But yeah, you know, I mean, in the books they did come up with new villains and new things. But so in this one, you know, we've got the Empire. Well, I'm sorry, the First Order.
Which I saw and everybody knows this. I mean, this is old news, but it's the similarities between this and World War II are insane.
There's a lot of
and I love that because I'm obsessed with World War II and all of that. So I have always loved that aspect of it. But,
right. Yeah, and they had some very strong moments with that in Force Awakens.
Yeah, they did.
But I guess what I forgot that I was trying to say is in the opening crawl and even a few other parts in this movie, they talk a little bit more about the New Republic. So they did, in that space between Jedi and Force Awakens, they did develop a New Republic. So they were in charge for a while, the good guys.
Yeah, they were.
And then I guess Snoke came along, got the remnants of the Empire together, and organized that. Which I think in the old stories it was Thrawn who did that, and you know came back and was able to push get rid of the New Republic, and then there's just this small group of rebels now. So basically, as we see in this film, I think more clearly in this film, all of that is explained, and then this new group of it's still Leia, but like this, what do they call themselves? The Resistance is sort of it's starting over again with the rebel thing that started out in like Rogue One.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought it was interesting that they gave us a clearer idea of all what had happened in this film.
I don't think anything's confusing.
Well, when I saw Force Awakens, it was kind of weird. They were like talking about, because you know we came off of the Empire and the Rebels, and now it's the First Order, and it's the Resistance because they had to come up with new names. They couldn't still call themselves the Empire and the Rebels for some reason.
You know where they got that? They got that from the Third Reich.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's very.
Yeah, and the
First Order.
And then the Resistance is very French Revolution thing,
exactly.
but I mean, keep the names, the old ones, you know. But I sort of lost the idea of like, so were they ever in charge after Jedi? You know, the good guys. But I feel like they made that a little clearer, and I appreciated that in this movie, just by mentioning it in the opening crawl, and also I don't remember the opening crawl of Force Awakens. But anyway, so then we see basically the Resistance is trying to evacuate where they were in the previous film, and but the First Order, I keep wanting to say Empire, is trying to stop them, and so they send out Poe, I guess to sort of distract them while they get all the troops out, and he does that by being jokey with General Hux.
Yeah, he does.
And it's a very comedic scene.
I like it.
You liked it?
Yeah, I did like that scene.
Did you feel it was
very Han Solo?
It was a very Han Solo thing.
Yeah.
Now for me, and I didn't dislike this scene at all because I also was like, this is very Han Solo. But it was kind of weird to open the film with a comedic moment. But I didn't have an issue with it, really. And I know a lot of people did.
No, I have issues with other comedic moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I probably do. I don't know if I do with other comedic moments. But anyway, so from that, the rebels are pretty much free to go, and Leia's saying, "Okay, Poe, come on back." And he decides, no, we've got an opportunity now to take out a Dreadnought, which a Dreadnought is basically a huge Star Destroyer.
Right.
Which was actually really neat as a fan of somebody who had, being somebody who used to read the novels.
Mm-hmm.
They used to talk about the Dreadnoughts,
I don't remember that.
which were not in the films as I recall. And they were just, they're massive,
Mm-hmm.
So he takes his squadron of X-Wings and they start attacking this, there's bombers actually. There's bombers. In fact, one of them is the sister of a character we see later. And she's the one who manages to drop enough bombs to destroy this Dreadnought.
While killing herself.
But not only herself, but a bunch of these fighters are of these pilots are dying because it's just such a big thing to undertake.
And that was the first thing I noticed in this movie. I was like, this is so ridiculous. Why is he doing this to just destroy one little Star Destroyer?
Which is why he got in trouble. He got in big trouble. But it's not a little Star Destroyer. It's massive.
Yeah.
As he said, they're fleet killers. They could take out everybody.
They're just gonna bring out another one.
Well, that's true. They probably will.
I mean, save your people.
But like Leia said, yeah. I mean, we can leave now. But he got everybody killed, and he got in trouble.
Yeah.
And he got demoted, actually.
He did, rightly so.
So that's what we see happening with Poe, and we're seeing like more of Poe in this movie, and he's a very
I do like
headstrong guy, and he sees himself as a leader, but then he does stupid things like that.
Yeah.
And Leia's telling him, look, you need to learn, to be a leader. You're
like
not
Han
doing it
needs
right.
to come over to him and say, "Don't get cocky, kid."
Yeah.
That's what he needs to do.
Which is what Leia did, but So Rey is over on this island. She's found Luke Skywalker. She's trying to hand him his lightsaber, his father's lightsaber, because she wants to be trained. And she's also supposed to bring Luke back to help because they're doing so poorly in the Resistance, trying to stop the First Order. Because First Order apparently has unlimited monies, and they're just making so many big weapons. And I don't know. I guess this Snoke guy that we don't know anything about is like the richest guy in the world.
No, they explained it. They took him to that planet where all the rich people were selling off all the...
Oh, well, that's where they're buying and selling.
Funding, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not really...
No, most of those people are corrupt, and they're probably giving those things away as well as for other
giving
favors.
Anything away, but I think they're selling them. But yeah, but that was an interesting thing, that planet. We'll talk about that in a minute. But
was like my least favorite part of it.
Was it? That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That there's people who that's the only part they didn't like. But get to that in a second. But so Luke, what does he do when he gets that lightsaber?
He throws it over his shoulder.
He just throws it over into the. What did you think about that scene?
So,
I would say that's the one bit of comedy that right now that I remember being like, ugh.
That didn't bother me as much because basically I'm seeing Luke right now as Yoda. I mean, Luke has kind of encompassed Yoda's personality slightly, and then when Yoda comes into the picture later, we see how much amped up Yoda is more than Luke. But I'm fine with that. I'm fine with having a little bit of Yoda-ish stuff going on.
It was a little different though, because he was just kind of being because Yoda was like playing with Luke and pretending and stuff.
Yeah.
Luke is just disgruntled as hell.
I know, but still.
But yeah, I think
me.
that's why we were seeing this sort of wacky Luke. It sort of matched up with the old scene with Yoda. But I don't have as much of a problem with it now. When I first saw it in theaters, that moment, jarred me a little bit.
Yeah.
It was a little bit.
Well,
it was a little hokey looking, just the way he did it.
There are several other comedic moments that are hokey and too Disney for me. And I hate saying that because I love Disney, but...
This is the Disney show.
Yeah. there are just moments that Disney is not mixing well with Star Wars, and it shouldn't be happening. Yes.
I only had that feeling one point at the end of the movie, and we'll talk about that later. I have not at any point gotten the feeling Disney is Disneyfying this.
Oh my goodness, are you kidding me?
Well, let's take it sequentially. The very most thing I have gotten from that is just, you can always, and this is a problem with Disney, you can always see the desire to merchandise things.
You can also always see the desire to pound a happy thought in your freaking brain.
Yeah,
and
they
that is
do
what is
that.
happening in this movie. Original Star Wars, yes. The original Star Wars was never so, like, a few characters in this movie are like the representatives of Disney, I feel like. Like, they keep like, oh, we need hope, and oh, this is so great, and you know, like, it's just, oh my gosh, it's so Disney.
I didn't get that.
Yeah,
the whole theme of this particular movie is failure.
Well, I liked those parts. The parts I didn't like were the ones that were just cramming the God bless us Disney thing.
I didn't get that from this movie.
The original Star Wars was way more gritty. I mean, there were a few things. I mean, like, maybe one moment when Leia says, you know, something about hope. Like, those kinds of things. There would just be like one moment in a whole movie. This, I felt like I was watching it tonight and I was just like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Well, quite a few times it was very, not to mention the comedic moments were very modern Marvel type comedic moments, and I don't
some of them
like seeing that in Star Wars. I think you need to keep Marvel and Star Wars separate. It is a totally different thing, and when you see somebody punch somebody out and fly across the room like the Hulk, that is just ridiculous to me, and it makes me angry.
Are you referring to like where Kylo uses the Force to just knock Hux down?
Yes.
In a sort of a comedic moment?
Yes.
I didn't take any issue with that because these two characters, I guess because I think what you gotta say basically is this Hux character is basically like a kind of character we haven't really seen in Star Wars.
No.
Except maybe for Jar Jar or something, because he's...
Are you serious?
Do you remember, the scene we were talking about a minute ago, the beginning, where Poe is sort of joking around, making fun of Hux, while Hux is on the deck there, and some of the expressions that Hux makes, it is very cartoony and comedic.
I really enjoy Hux, and I really enjoy the casting of the...
I enjoy Hux too, don't get me wrong.
All of the First Order I thought was really pretty well cast, except... I actually liked Kylo Ren better.
We have never seen a comedic relief character in Star Wars that was on the villain side. Right.
Well, putting that aside, though, I really thought that they captured. One good thing is that they captured the personalities of the villains from the original.
A lot of them do, yeah.
It was it seemed a lot like that. You know what I mean? So,
I agree with that.
I was really happy about that. But like I said, I mean, and we'll get to this while we're doing the synopsis, but it was just so many comedic moments that did not need to be there. And other things.
I think that a character like Hux, which was a very different, again, I feel like we've never seen a character like that in terms of the villains, as being a comic relief, you know, a character like that. I don't think we've seen that in Star Wars. I think that's a lot of the issues that a lot of people have is we're seeing new stuff, and people were complaining about Force Awakens because it rehashed a lot of things, and now they're complaining here because we're seeing new things.
No, I'm not complaining about Hux.
No, I'm not. I'm not picking on you. I'm just saying people in general.
But there's a difference. We're not complaining about new things. We're complaining about certain tones of certain things, like this.
New tones.
No, I know, but it's not
Well, I feel like you're relating it to, okay, you're like, where have I seen something like this? I've seen it in Marvel.
I'm heavily relating it to the Marvel films.
I know.
Heavily.
Because that's where we've seen it recently.
But Disney needs to stop, and they need to realize what kind of creature they're dealing with, and they need
partially
to be
agree. Partially
They need to be true to how it should be, and not bring that kind of comedy in. Bring other writers in who are more for Star Wars, not like.
In Disney's defense, it's still Lucasfilm that's making these movies.
Well, whatever. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love Marvel. I love the comedy in Marvel. I think it's fantastic.
Well, I agree with that.
But and some things didn't bother me in this film, but a lot of stuff did, because I felt like I was watching a Marvel
But what
film.
I'm getting at is, you say you like the character of Hux.
Yeah.
And he's the kind of character that you toss around the room. That's what I'm trying to say.
They didn't. No. They didn't have to do that, because I really enjoyed his character without doing those kinds of things. The little exchange that they had at the beginning, that I guess people are complaining about, I actually enjoyed that. I mean, it seemed like an exchange that Han Solo would have with somebody else. You know what I mean?
I enjoy that, and I feel the same. But it was weird at the beginning of the movie. Okay. But it wasn't a problem for me.
Yeah.
It was a little. I feel like it was a weird way to start a Star Wars film.
Right.
Sort of the way you're talking about it feeling like it was, feeling like it was from Marvel. I get how that seemed like something Han Solo would do, maybe. And then not entirely, because Han Solo would do that only out of desperation.
Yeah. True.
This character who was tooling with.
Right. Well, they're different characters, but
that's what I mean. They're different characters, but yeah, he's how are they different? They're a little bit more like Marvel, I guess.
We're watching the original. Lando's so suave with Leia right now.
Yeah.
I love it.
I mean, I get what you're saying. I don't disagree entirely, but it didn't full on make me feel. I didn't feel like it was to a degree where I was like, they're putting way too much of this in. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It didn't overwhelm me to where I felt like I was watching Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh God, and I love Guardians.
I love Guardians of the Galaxy. Sometimes when I watch Thor Ragnarok, which I love also, I'm like, I hope they're not just trying to make everything Guardians of the Galaxy now, because that's like their best Marvel movie.
But yeah, so you're saying.
But I didn't feel like there was enough of that to make me feel bad about this being a Star Wars movie.
Okay, but yeah, there wasn't enough of that. But when you combine it with the other stuff that there wasn't enough of, it compiled into this whole like big thing for me that was like, this is not a Star Wars movie. But anyway,
well,
let's continue
we'll get to that.
With this.
Okay, so what were we on right there?
He threw the lightsaber over his shoulder.
Wait, we're at the beginning. Okay, so Luke is refusing to train Rey, and he just doesn't want anything to do with being a Jedi anymore, or training Jedi. He's the last Jedi. He wants to be the last Jedi. And he's not even using the Force or anything anymore. Yeah. And he's running around this island doing crazy island survival stuff, and it's kind of badass because he's not doing it with the Force. He's just become like a badass island guy. And I know we're jumping around because this didn't all happen in one scene, but like she's following him around like, hey, you have to train me or you have to come back with me, she's saying. And
he keeps saying no.
He's like, no, I'm not coming back. And he's milking aliens and
one of the major scenes. Oh god.
It's stabbing fish, and the alien. She looks at the alien. It's like it's sort of like a walrus type thing with a long neck.
Horrifying.
It looks back at her with like a tear in its eye as he's like milking this thing, getting green milk and drinking it. And it's so like I'm thinking that creature knows what's happening right now.
Also, I was like, Luke,
it is a highly intelligent creature.
I was like, Luke, no, that's bad milk. No, it's green. Don't do it. Blue milk, okay. Green milk, no.
Well, he knows it's fresh.
I know, but gross. Yeah, but that creature has gonorrhea or something.
And I get a kick out of that scene now, but that was another scene that when I saw it in theaters, I was like, whoa, what the heck did I just see in a Star Wars movie? He just melts, like I just saw like a boob being squeezed in a Star Wars movie. But that was like, there were like, and that didn't full on bother me even the first time, but that was like one of two things the first time I saw it. It was just that and the lightsaber bit that jarred me the first time I saw the film.
So there's a really important scene that's in the midst of all that where he's asking her a question that was killing me this time I was watching it. It was so awkward and...
That Luke was asking her?
Yes, and I feel like the writers should have like written a more intelligent script for that part because he was just constantly saying, "Who are you?
Who are you?" Well, he wasn't saying it like that.
Who are you?
I had no problem with that.
Who are you? And I was just like, oh God, stop it already. I didn't enjoy that scene.
I don't get anything out of that.
I feel like
why that would be an issue.
I feel like usually Star Wars is a little more intelligent with their dialogue than that. I mean, you say "Who are you?"
I was gonna go to Tashi Station and pick up some power converters.
The words power converters are in there. I don't know. It was just really repetitive and it felt really awkward, and I was just like, okay, let's move past this scene.
I don't know. I mean, there's people who like take great issue with the scene when Leia says in A New Hope, I could smell your foul stench when I was brought on board.
Oh, I love that.
I know, you love that line. That's the thing. It's like, these like lines are, it's like a little bit nitpicky. Everybody's got these certain lines, even in the classic original trilogy.
No, but like that, it wasn't just the line, "Who are you?" It was like the whole scene was awkward and weird. I don't know. But I feel like those lines created that scene, those lines were making that scene awkward. I don't know.
Well,
I feel like
the point that he was trying to get at was like, why did they, like later he's asking still, maybe it's the same scene, and he's like, no, like why did they send you? In other words, he was trying to.
Well,
he was trying to get at, are you here
that way,
to
then?
portray?
I feel like
he did later, but
I feel like they would have said it like that maybe the second time, not just saying "Who are you?" a million times and then saying no.
Well, he's on this island and this girl shows up, and I mean, what do you say?
Excuses.
Well, what do you say? I'm not making an excuse. I'm just saying you say, "Who are you?" If somebody shows up and you don't know them, you're like, "Who are you?"
I don't know. Maybe it was the way it was delivered. I don't know. It bugged me.
Okay. Well, so what else was happening at this time? We have, that's going on. She's over on the island.
I think this is about the time that
there was something
Finn
else
starts going off with this other chick.
I feel like we're missing something big here at the beginning.
Oh, the fact that Leia gets blasted out of space.
That's probably it. But like they were cutting back and forth. I don't know. I feel like we might be missing something. But okay,
probably
that's a very major thing.
Kylo Ren and his master as well.
Maybe he does go and talk to Snoke because
by the way,
they got away.
I can't stand Snoke either.
Okay.
I can't stand Snoke.
Because he's CGI?
He's way too CGI. Had you gotten an old man and put some makeup on him or something to make him look grotesque, I would have bought that so fast. But this CGI creature bugs the hell out of me.
I'm not going to disagree that there's no point in making him CGI. And a lot of people have said that. Now, it doesn't full on bother me. I mean, I guess I'm used to CGI.
It bothers the hell out of me.
Bad CGI bothers me, and I did have issues with Snoke in Force Awakens.
See, to me, that's bad CGI.
In Force Awakens, it was bad. In this, I think it's just because you know it's CGI.
CGI is bad. Unless...
See, that's not
No. Yes, it is. Unless you can show me something that looks like an actual human or an actual thing that is in front of me right there, then it is bad. You shouldn't be using it yet. Maybe in 50 years you can use CGI and show me somebody that actually looks like a human in front of me. Then I will accept that. But if it still looks like a cartoon, unless you're doing Roger Rabbit, which I love, then keep it out of the movies. I don't want to see CGI. Puppets are way better.
Roger Rabbit should not be done in CGI. That's a whole nother argument.
No, I'm not saying that.
Robert Zemeckis wanted to make a Roger Rabbit sequel with CGI tunes, and that would have been a mistake.
I think CGI has no business in anything until they get it right, and that's all I'm saying.
I think that I hope you're just talking about human characters, because there has been some phenomenal work with CGI with animal characters.
All those like that weird creature with the nipples, that was way too fake for me too.
That wasn't even CGI.
Yeah, it was.
That was not a CGI character.
Sure?
I'm 100% sure that was a real character. That was just like in Jedi with Jabba the Hutt. That was
I don't remember it then.
That was a real character.
Are you sure?
Yes, he was handling rubber.
The face was CGI.
I'm pretty sure that was just, there was no reason to CGI it since they had to build it anyway.
I'm pretty sure that face was CGI.
It's possible that the face part was CGI.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I know he was gripping some real boob
Well,
there.
that doesn't mean anything.
Some rubber,
I'm pretty sure that face was CGI.
I don't know. I don't see why they would have to CGI that, because all it did was do this. I mean, you see that at the Jungle Cruise.
No, it was moving like this and stuff.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
It was just sitting there. It was just sitting there and it turned its head.
I'm pretty sure it was CGI.
Well,
at least the head part. Anyway, it doesn't belong in Star Wars.
There's far less CGI here than there was in George Lucas's prequels.
I agree.
And
but I still didn't like that either. So.
Or even in the original trilogy now.
I know. That's why I'm desperately trying to get a hold of the.
Oh, just go online and order the Harmy version.
Yeah.
You get the originals. But anyway, so. Well, so Snoke is CGI. I don't have a huge problem with it. I just would prefer a real guy. But at the same time, I feel like they could have done. I mean,
he doesn't intimidate me at all.
He's not, and you see that he's very powerful, but he's
just not
just a guy in his robe, and he's. I mean, I know he uses the Force really well,
but the Emperor was intimidating.
The Emperor was more intimidating. Because he looked like.
A monster.
Well, he looked like an old man, but he was like a creepy, like something you see at night in the corner of your room. The hood over him and everything.
Man.
And this guy's over here in his gold robe. It wasn't the best choice, but this is a vast galaxy. Not everybody's gonna look like friggin', straight out of hell.
Are you telling me that I should accept the fact that this is a galaxy that has CGI creatures? Is that
what do you mean?
Telling me? I don't know. It's kind of like Toontown in a way.
No, I'm not talking about the CGI. I'm talking about the way he's like an old man in his like gold robe.
No, that's fine.
Because that's why I don't think he's very intimidating.
They should have cast an old man in a gold robe.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just don't like that it's another old man.
That too. That's a little.
But it doesn't. Again, it doesn't hurt the movie.
It's always going to be an old man.
It's just. That's
politics.
Yeah, maybe. that's a good point too. We got our own old man in a gold robe right now. But for me, well, I don't have a big huge issue with Snoke. I want to say some other things about him, but I guess we need to save that for when it comes up. So basically, he just chastises Hux and Kylo, and and then they move on to he really upsets Kylo because Kylo goes back and throws a tantrum.
Yeah, it's like Daddy is disappointed.
Yeah, basically, and more of that. You'll never be Darth Vader kind of thing.
I actually enjoyed Kylo more in this one than in the last one.
I liked him a lot better in this one.
But actually, halfway through this one is when I started to like him. Previously, I was just like, this guy's a wuss, and he's just a crybaby. And I felt like they were trying to make him another Darth Vader. But then when I kind of got to the point that he's not Darth Vader, he's just like a guy trying to be Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Then I got that. But at the same time, he was still a wuss. So until the second half of this movie, I was like, oh, you actually have some kind of conviction of some sort.
Yeah, I have never. I know that a lot of people just think he's just a wuss, but I never really thought he was a wuss.
Are you kidding me?
I mean, he's a little brat. I mean, but
brat too. Brat's
but I think he can mess you up because he's got the Force severe. I mean, it was kind of strange that well, I guess Rey also has super force. I mean, like, he can stop, like, laser bolts with his
Brat is
force.
probably a better word, but I have no respect for brats, so there you go.
But I like the backstory they got into with them, with sort of why he did things that he did. But anyway, we'll get to that. So, yeah, back on their ship. Well, we find out during the Hux and Kylo talking to Snoke is that Hux has put a tracker, some kind of they have some new way of tracking through hyperspace. Mm-hmm. So they're able to catch up after the rebels. I'm gonna call them the rebels, whatever. After they got away.
Yeah, and they'll have exhausted all their gas.
Yeah, they got away through hyperspace, and then boom, they're back in the same situation. The I want to say Empire. What is it? First Order. They're right there again, and and then there's stuff talking and stuff, and then boom, they get blasted, and Leia gets sucked right out of the ship, and a bunch of people die. Admiral Ackbar dies. Now, a lot of people have big issues with the fact that Admiral Ackbar died that way.
Look, every character is expendable. I have no issues with
No, you have no issues with that.
Characters. I may be horribly distraught and sad about it, like Han Solo, but I mean, people die.
I'm glad that Ackbar was in these two movies. I almost feel like, well, and so
I love Ackbar, yeah.
And he's not the only one. So there are a few that.
How else would he have died? This is
he's
what
gonna
he
die.
does.
I wish he had been showing more, had better lines in the movies.
Okay.
Had a better presence.
Okay, that's valid.
This is not this is not something that hurts the movie for me. It's just something I wish. And again, I'm not the writer, so it's not gonna, kill it for me. But it would have been nice if Ackbar had done more.
I get that.
Because he had a strong presence in Jedi.
He did, yeah.
But it seems like just all Leia now. Which is, Leia's great. And, but here she gets sucked out into space. And she frosts over. But then you see her hand move. And she's using the Force. And she pulls herself back to the ship. Mm-hmm. And everybody... It seems so many people hate this moment. And some people, this is the only moment they hate. You're going to find, like, with the moments in this movie that people didn't like.
It varies.
Some of them just hate the whole movie, really. Mm-hmm. Some of them, it's that moment that they feel, like, ruined the movie, or they just don't like that moment. And this is a moment that a lot of people hate.
I actually loved this moment.
I did too.
What I will say is I felt like maybe it could have been filmed better. Like maybe in a different way, because I do understand where
they're calling it the Mary Poppins, like the Leia Poppins.
I do understand where the people are coming from, in that she was just like kind of, it was weird. She was just like gliding over there. And
some of them are saying the stupidest things. They're like, when did she get the Force?
No. Okay.
Like, did you not watch the original trilogy?
I love that she's actually showing her power.
Yeah.
I love that. But I do feel like maybe they could have shot it differently to where it didn't look so Mary Poppins-ish.
Okay, and I'm going to disagree with that. I mean, that's fair. I'm going to disagree with that because I didn't get a Mary Poppins vibe. I just saw a woman using the Force. That's what I saw.
It doesn't bug me. It doesn't bug me at all.
And
I enjoy it. But I'm just saying, like, I see where the other people are coming from.
I honestly, on this one, the ones that are passionate about it or throwing the Mary Poppins thing around to where it's like in a very derogatory way.
Well, see, I wouldn't have seen the whole Mary Poppins thing until you mentioned it, that it looks like
exactly, and it didn't to me. So you obviously didn't think Mary Poppins when you saw it, right?
I felt it was a little awkward. I felt that the way it was shot was a little awkward, or the choice that they made in showing her fly across. Maybe if they had done it from head on or something like that. Maybe it would have been better.
I don't think that would have made a difference. I think what this was a case of was something very new to see in Star Wars. Not just like on many levels. It's like we've never seen Leia do much with the Force. We've never seen anyone use the Force like that.
We've never seen really anyone fly.
We've never seen anyone out in space, like exposed in space.
Yeah, that's true.
And I mean, you know, I don't really know what happens when you're out exposed in space. I know you die, but I don't know how fast or how it looks, you know?
Yeah.
But somebody with the Force has abilities to control some of the things happening in their body.
Yeah, yeah.
And as far as like people saying that's not real, well, I mean, you know, it's Star Wars. It's not going to be realistic. They're using the Force. They can do whatever, right?
I just love that she was using the Force and she got herself out of that situation. I think that was great.
I mean, she's going to be able to pull the life force going on in that ship, pull herself towards it. You know?
Yeah.
It makes sense to me, and I totally bought it. And I thought the way it was shot was fine. I didn't have any issues with that. It was surprising to me to see it too. Partly because I was like, okay, how are they going to kill her off in this movie?
I thought it was awesome. Like, when I was in the theater, I remember it being awesome, but I do also think that I felt a little awkward with it. But
and I did think it would have been a good way to kill off Leia, because it was a very dramatic death. But at the same time, you know, you would have lost all the... She was in all the rest of the movie, and that was great. I don't know what they're going to do in the next movie. I'm thinking they might just put her death in the opening crawl. I don't know.
Right.
But
they'll probably do something.
But I'm glad, you know, that she survived it, and I was totally into, you know, that. It was Mary Poppins-y to me.
Maybe she never came back from that really well or something. I don't know.
Oh, as far as like they're gonna say that
she never really recovered or something.
Maybe she did. She does have a cane after. I don't know if she had a cane before. I don't think she did.
No, she didn't.
So, anyway, so they get her back. They put her on life support and all that stuff, and then they announce a new person in charge because.
Can I just say something real quick? I love how everybody's so devoted to Leia, and oh my god, it's gonna make me cry. But the fact that they saw Leia out the window and they ran to her, and especially Poe. What's going on? He has a motherly
yeah. Poe is super close with Leia.
Oh my god, it's so good.
They totally have a mother-son relationship, which is really touching considering what happened with her real son.
Yeah,
you know?
That's true.
And I totally agree with that, and I really like that. And they make her super. Now I'm starting to tear up.
I know.
She's super important.
So good.
But now she's out
and her own daughter is there doing it too.
Yeah, they got her daughter in there. They really built up her daughter's character more in this movie.
Carrie Fisher,
Carrie Fisher's daughter, whose name I can't remember off the hand. Gosh, I forget the actress's name. But they built up her character a lot more in this movie. I hope they continue to do that, because it's nice to have that link, you know.
Absolutely.
And we always love her on Scream Queens.
Oh god, that was such a good show.
So sad that show is gone.
It was so good.
But she was hilarious. That show was so funny, man.
And she always wore the little...
Yeah, the Princess Leia type. She always wore earmuffs.
Yeah.
And it was obviously like a tribute to Leia. But anyway... So they announced a new person in charge. And I think Poe, it almost seemed like he was like, they're about to say my name, you know? Because Leia's in life support.
But once again, I was like, don't get cocky.
He's super cocky in this.
Yeah.
And but again, the whole point of this movie, the theme of it is failure and getting taken down a notch and learning from it.
He also feels like her son, it seems. So I mean, he probably thinks he's next in line. I don't know.
Yeah. But turns out she's got this buddy who's like Vice Admiral Holdo. I think it was Vice Admiral. And she's the one who's taken over.
Laura Dern. I don't care what people say. I really enjoyed her in this.
Jurassic Park and everything. Yeah.
I really enjoyed her in this.
And most people do not like her in this. The word miscast gets thrown around a lot.
Okay. I would just like to say that she pulled off some of the hokiest lines very well. There's a scene with her and Leia at the end of her time in this movie, and it could have gone really hokey, but she pulled it off so well, and I do not think she was miscast for this. I think she was great. I mean, her look.
Do you remember what they said that was hokey?
Oh, it was the whole "May the Force be with you" thing, and then It was hokey because they were like, you say.
Oh, because
you
they said
say
it at the
next.
same time.
Yeah. It could have been really bad, you know, but then and her coming back with it, that also could have been bad. Like her response saying, "May the Force be with you." She did so well. I think she was great.
I didn't have any issue with that part of it, but overall, that character of Holdo, which most people don't seem to like, and I think they just feel like she doesn't fit in with the Star Wars.
They're
like,
just getting her
universe,
confused with
just the way-
Jurassic Park.
Maybe. I think it's part of it is just the fact that I think people had issues in this movie with recognizable actors. Because I also heard some complaints about Benicio del Toro, who I love in this movie. I love him in this movie.
Yeah.
I love his performance. I love the character. But I'll get into that in a bit. But
I can understand that point of view. I can.
I can understand that
Because
too.
it does throw you off a little bit.
You know, you're used to fresh faces
Yeah.
in Star Wars, and when you see somebody, but I mean, then they did have some famous people
Yeah,
in the
they
originals.
did.
I mean, Ben Kenobi was a
Yeah.
famous actor, you know.
He was.
So yeah, I don't know. Some people, it's just the way she speaks is very. They just think of her like a Midwestern type person or something. Or I don't know if that's where she's
I think
from,
she
but you know,
pulled it
just
off
like.
fine. I mean, you can't have everybody sounding like Leia.
Everybody can't eat. Also, everybody can't be British or whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
For me, I thought she was okay. I didn't have a huge issue with her, but I can also see the point of people who did have an issue with her. There is something a little bit folksy about, you know, just or like soccer mommy about her, which is what some people were saying.
Oh my gosh.
She's like soccer mom in space, you know, and I get that.
I don't get that at all. And at the end where she like sacrificed herself, I thought that was great.
Okay, that's a big, you know, so we're jumping around a little bit, but the thing about her sacrificing herself, and this is a point other people have made.
It wasn't necessary.
So, like, why was it necessary? I mean, you can't program the ship to do
That's
something
exactly
like that.
what I was
You
thinking.
can't remote control the ship, or even if you have to, put a droid in there. I know that we love our droids, but
No,
there's also,
that's exactly what I was thinking too. But
yeah.
they had to make her redeemable to Poe, so
They were trying, yeah, they're I don't know. I
don't get it either.
It didn't make sense to sacrifice in this universe in a situation like that where you have time to get a droid and stick him in the ship, or just tell the computer.
Hey, 3PO. Oh God, horrible.
Maybe droids would just flat out say, no, I'm not doing that. Or maybe, yeah, I mean, you know, they do have personalities in this universe. Maybe even the ship, if you told the ship to do it, maybe the ship would say no.
A droid is like a person in this universe.
Yeah, I get that, but not to the
In
point of
in
this.
A New Hope, they weren't. They were just like droids. You know?
That, as far as plot, that's one of my biggest issues with this one is just, you know, does she really need to sacrifice herself? I mean, there's got to be a way to just send the ship, you know, to do that. So, but, and yet I'm not entirely sure how much she knew that she was going to have to, that she was sacrificing herself from that part, I guess. Because I know that she doesn't do what she does until they find out that they're being attacked. So at a point there, I was like, oh, is she just deciding now to sacrifice herself? But I guess she knew just being on that ship.
No, she thought she was going to get blown up because they were going to pay attention to her, you know?
Yeah, I guess she just figured it would be later. But anyway, but it was a very dramatic moment when she does it, and it was very well done. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is all, the screen just goes silent.
Oh, I know. That was very Star Wars.
Yeah.
The whole, like, rip through everything and then just, like, everything falling to the wayside. That was great.
But, and again, that's later in the film, but, she takes over, basically, and Poe's very against this, and he's trying to, you know, be involved in leadership, and she's like, I'm aware that you've been demoted and everything, you know. And that was good. It was fine.
She's great.
I didn't have major issues with her.
I don't either.
But I can see what people say. But anyway, what happened? Finn is trying to escape. That's what's going on.
Yeah.
So Finn is like, and it's not that he's trying to like just run away. He's worried about Rey.
Right.
So I forgot to say that Finn woke up from Finn has been in like in medical care since like the last movie. So he wakes up and Poe and BB-8 see him and they're all happy and they catch him up, but he's just like, where's Rey, right? So he has some kind of beacon that he gets from Leia, which is like a way for Rey to find them wherever they are, in space. I feel like there's got to be a limit to how far that beacon can go, but anyway, supposedly not.
It's run by the Force.
It's Star Wars power.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's got this beacon, and he's like, okay, great. But then he finds out basically that, everybody on this ship is going to die because he finds out that they can track. Everybody's found out that they can be tracked no matter where they go. So he's like, I'm going to take an escape pod, and I'm going to go far away so that Rey won't go back to this ship. She'll go to me wherever I am, right?
Right.
And, to me, that's kind of like he's more worried about Rey, but I guess you could say he's also trying to save both of their butts out of it. But I don't know. He's right. They're going to get blown up, right? So
she's like the only hope. And if she has Luke with her, then then they're really screwed.
Yeah.
Because they were expecting to have
they're
Luke.
just all going to die. Good point. So he's trying to get out, and then in the escape pod, and he's caught by Rose, this new character. And Rose is like this innocent, like very personality. Seems very like innocent, like what's the word? Just like
Disney.
You could say that. Okay, so that's how you feel about Rose. I was about to ask you how you felt about this new character, Rose.
I like the character.
I just was gonna say she's very full of
Disney.
No. That's not the word. I'm trying to think of the word here. She's very hopeful and the word is escaping me.
I like the character and I really like the actress. I think she's great. It's just sometimes some of the lines.
She's got this like.
It's just this
exuberance,
Yeah, and
I didn't have much trouble with. Like when she first meets, like I see some of the lines later. I can get with what you're saying.
Yeah, like the beginning's fine.
Like when she first meets him, she's like, "Oh, it's Finn, the legend, Cause
yeah, that's fine with me.
And that was a great scene,
cool, yeah.
And she's all excited to meet him, and she's like, I had to like stop, like I had already had like
I think it's great
to tase like I don't know how many people trying to escape, and then she figures out that he's like getting into an escape pod, and she's like, oh okay, so she like tases him too, and stuns him, so she stuns him, and she's taking him back to have him locked up, I guess, and for desertion. And he's like, I wasn't deserting. He's trying to explain himself, but of course to her it's still desertion, right? But then he mentions that no matter where they go, they can be tracked, and they start discussing how that's done, and they figure out that it's just one ship that's capable of tracking them. So they're like, oh, so we can like go on that ship and like disable whatever they're doing,
which is very Rogue One,
at least long enough to get away. But that's war. There's like you go on missions. It's always missions.
The red thing needs to be towards the green thing.
But it's always missions. It's like watching.
No, I mean like going inside. And, yeah, I guess that's it.
I mean, it's also the original Star Wars. You going on a mission to get the princess, and they always are going to do that.
No, I'm talking about turning off the thing in the middle of the whole ship or whatever.
I think that's a connection that you're going to find in any kind of war type thing.
Yeah.
Continue. So they get this idea of doing that, and they go and talk to Poe about it, and they don't know what's up with Poe because Poe is like having issues because he wants to be in charge, and Poe is all upset. I don't know if it's after this where he gets all upset because he finds out. I guess it's after this. He sends them. He's like, okay, go.
It was before where he gets upset, and then. Because he's so upset, he allows them to be in that plan. That's
yeah, but I'm talking about when he finds out that she's planning to just evacuate.
Oh no, that's later.
That's later. Okay, so so he says, okay, go on this mission and take BB-8, and so they go to Cantobite, which is a planet that has a big casino on it. You know, some people call it a casino planet. I guess the whole planet could be one casino. We just see this like city that's like a casino, the whole city.
Yeah.
And that's the funny thing about Star Wars. It's like it's the planet that is entirely ice, the planet that's entirely forest, the planet that's entirely desert. And like, I don't know, this is the only planet we know of that has an ecosystem, but we just have everything.
Casinos.
Why? Yeah, because like there's one that's entirely a city, you know, the capital city, Coruscant. So yeah, it's weird. But so they go to the casino planet because Maz Kanata said.
Which I like Maz.
Okay, I was gonna ask you.
She is CGI. She would be better as a puppet. But I like her character.
But you can't do as much with a puppet. You can't.
You can do anything with a puppet. Just do it.
Well, to a certain degree.
Just
to a certain
do
degree.
it. Okay, just do it.
I mean, I'm pro puppet. You know, don't get me wrong. I if you can use a puppet or anything that's physical, I say do it. I think CGI is better to enhance things, but I'm not. I have seen CGI characters that look totally real. I don't
really
think.
Where?
Terrible movie, but that new Peter Rabbit movie has animals that look freaking real.
I will have to see that.
But you won't be able to see because you know it's CGI because they're talking, and I mean it's not like crappy. It's like really good, you know, movements and everything.
If it looks real, I won't.
You know it's CGI because of the fact that you know a rabbit can't do that and a puppet can't move that.
No. I know
that
it's
realistically.
CGI because I know what CGI looks like.
No. There's a huge line there with CGI that people know things are CGI no matter how good it looks. Now, most CGI you can tell visually.
Oh.
But, our stuff is falling. No matter how good CGI looks, there's always the fact that we know what the limits of things like puppets and people. So we're always going to know that that's CGI. And so if we have issues with CGI, that's always going to creep up. That's always going to be a thing.
But I can recognize if it actually looks like an animal or not.
Yeah, but you're still prejudiced against CGI. I don't believe that. I don't believe that you can.
We'll see.
But anyway, Maz, who in CGI usually looks pretty good, pretty realistic.
No.
I'm not saying you can't tell visually that she looks like CGI, but
looks not
she is good quality CGI. Not the number one best I've seen.
I will never say that. I just think I like her character.
Well, I'm glad you like her character because when I first saw Maz, I didn't dislike her, but she reminded me way too much of Edna Mode from The Incredibles.
Yeah.
And she still kind of does. And I feel like they're kind of pushing her down our throats like they did with Edna Mode. Because like she's in every movie now because I think she's going to be in the Han Solo movie too.
Okay.
I think she's part of the crew and I'm just like, okay, so every Star Wars movie now is going to have her. Okay. But but I don't hate her. I mean, she's a good character when I'm watching her. She did seem kind of crammed into this movie. You can get that porg and put it over here. Everything's funny.
Mr. Poor.
But yeah, so she's in this movie very briefly. They're talking to her like through a hologram or whatever, and she tells them that on Canto Bight, the casino planet, they can find a guy who's wearing a flower pin, and he's the ultimate like hacker guy who can code breaker. Mm-hmm. So they need to go find him, and he can break the code on the Imperial's ship.
This guy's real funny.
Yeah, the code breaker.
Yeah.
You see him barely on the casino planet.
He's so funny.
But he's hilarious because when they get to casino planet and they get into the casino and they're looking for this guy, they see him really quickly right before they get arrested. And he's like 1930s guy. Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah. So this city, like I like the 1930s aspect.
Yeah, it's got a strong like vibe with that. He's got like the pencil thin mustache and
like another World War II thing. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, it's a whole like it's got a 1930s vibe. A lot of the things in this casino, and and this guy's really hilarious. Because I was like, when they went to this planet, I'm like, we're finally gonna see Lando Calrissian.
Aww.
When I saw this in theaters. I was like, please be Lando.
Yeah.
The Master Codebreaker or whatever. But it wasn't Lando. It was a little, and that was a little bit disappointing, even though I like the Master Codebreaker now because it's funny and everything. But for a while I was just disappointed because it wasn't Lando.
I have to do this because my back is hurting.
Yeah. Anyway, it wasn't Lando. So they're trying to get this Master Codebreaker, but they get arrested because they parked on the beach or something. Mm-hmm. And they're just not supposed to be there. They're obviously not rich like everybody else.
Right.
And
they stick out like sore thumb.
Yeah, so they're in jail. And, well, I guess, did you have any opinion of this whole scene that was on the casino? Well, let me finish. I guess there's a little bit more of this. Okay. They're in jail and they meet Benicio del Toro, mm-hmm. who is also in jail. And he's like, you need a codebreaker and a thief and a codebreaker. I'm that, I can do that. And at first they don't want to get him because he's shady looking. But they end up going with him because he breaks them right out of the cell. And BB-8's out there waiting for them, and he's like taking out all the guards. And BB-8 is awesome. He's always awesome.
I love him.
And so they manage to get out, and they get away on a ship. They get separated. And Benicio del Toro and BB-8 steal a ship. Yeah. While they end up escaping on these big animals that they use like racehorses mm-hmm. for betting. And
this is where it goes to hell.
The whole movie or this scene?
This scene.
Okay.
This whole adventure of theirs.
Their adventure that a lot of people feel like should be cut out of the movie.
It should.
I disagree, and I'll tell you why.
I would love if it were.
But so they're these little kids, little human kids, and they take care of these animals in the stables, mm-hmm. and they're able to take the animals and escape by letting all the animals out. Yeah. And they convince the little kids to help them do that by showing like a ring that's like from the rebellion and has like a secret opening.
And I enjoyed that part of the movie with the kids. I did enjoy that part.
Interesting.
Later on there was a scene that I didn't. But
okay, well, so really quickly, they ride these animals away and they meet up with the ship that BB-8 and Del Toro have stolen. Mm-hmm. So then that's when they get away to the next part of the mission. But so the whole thing that you have an issue with.
So I really enjoyed the opening of this adventure with the Codebreaker guy. That was really funny.
Yeah.
And I do like
Benicio del Toro.
Benicio del Toro.
Did you like the casino in general and everything?
Yeah.
That did have a lot of CGI.
But and I also really liked those, whatever those animals were. I thought they were kind of cute, but they still were way too CGI for me. But they were cute. Oh, the movie's over. So, where it got bad for me was when they started like running through the casino and through everything and breaking things. And
some of the comedy maybe in that scene?
The comedy, the action was just off the wall. It was like, this is not something that Star Wars would do. It was just...
It would, some people say it looked too much like it looked too much like Fifth Element. The casino itself, the characters, and just the way it looked. And
yeah, I mean, everything's a little too bright. But, so there were 1930s bars that looked really seedy, which would have been way cooler, I feel like.
Would it have looked too much? I don't know.
It would have looked like,
like the cantina scene,
No, they could have done it in a better way. But
because this is not supposed to look seedy. This is supposed to be like an upper crust place. This is where the rich people go.
How many Holocaust movies have you seen where the upper crust parties don't look that bright and happy? I mean, there's a level where you can like make it look
make it more gritty at the same time
and realistic. Yeah. Especially painting these people as villains, because in a sense they are.
Which they did
explain. But my issue was when they were running through the casino with these creatures, and I mean they were just destroying everything, and it was just getting out of hand, and I was like, this is ridiculous. This is not Star Wars. Okay.
Oh, I mean, it's kind of like the Jabba sail barge scene where they are taking over and just fighting everybody.
No.
It's just a bigger area.
It's nothing like that. I mean, it was too much going on, and like, it was just, okay, so Star Wars to me should be, I know that the kids nowadays they don't have a good attention span, I realize that, But Star Wars to me is not very. It's very quiet and very like relaxing and very not. I mean, I don't want to say not big, but it's a 70s movie, you know what I mean? And
well, I was going to say, this is where you're very, one of these people who's very original trilogy only.
I want that feeling.
Because, like, I don't really, rewatching this over and over, I don't really see so much that this is Fifth Element looking. I mean, I kind of get what they're getting at, but to me, this is very, it's more like the prequel trilogy.
Yes, no, I was getting that also.
That casino.
I was also getting that as well.
And I don't mean the whole mission. I mean like the casino stuff, and like you say, when they're like having the action scene.
Like I checked out.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't check out, but I can see how somebody might feel like this is a little prequel-ish.
Yes, it was. It was not up to par.
When I was going to say that, you know, as somebody who watches the prequels, there are things I like and that I don't like, and it's not really one of the things that I have issues with in the prequels. It was jarring when the prequels first came out because everything in the prequels looks, you know, very different, partly because of CGI, but also because everything is nice and clean and new looking.
Yeah.
Because it was at a high point for the whole, for the Republic at the time, and this is sort of a place that should look all nice and clean and new because this is the ritzy people. So it works okay for me. I don't have a big problem with that. The problem that a lot of people have with this scene is more story-wise. And there is also, like I said, some people felt it looked like Fifth Element. So some people have that issue.
Mine was with the look.
But a lot of people have a story issue with this, with the whole mission that they're on, because it turns out to not work out. And that's why they say it should be cut out of the story.
Well, missions don't work out sometimes.
Right, and I agree with that. But also, you know, they're saying, well, yeah, but it killed time. It was just a time killer. And also, a lot of people say, some people are saying, why are we even following Finn anymore? His story ended in the first movie, which I think is a baffling thing to say. You know, this movie is about, Star Wars is about the characters and the relationships they form with each other.
I agree.
And Finn definitely this is the new trio, and Finn is definitely a strong part of that. And he's one of my favorite, he might be my favorite new character. I mean,
really?
I love Rey, but I think Finn is the most fun character.
Oh, I like Poe.
I like Poe. I like Rey.
I think he's an idiot sometimes, but I like Poe.
But yeah,
and I love Rey.
Actually, I didn't like Poe for a lot of this movie. I mean, I like him, but he was kind of an idiot in this movie.
Yeah, so Han though.
And it was believable, yeah. And I like Han, but I mean, Han's my favorite, you know. But no. So I don't agree with that whole like we don't even need Finn or this mission is pointless. The point of this mission is because this movie's about failure, and it's about they keep trying, trying and failing, but keep trying, you know. And you were saying that they pushed that too much throughout the movie verbally.
Yes.
I didn't feel that way.
There's a way of doing it without being so verbal with it. And that's a problem with a lot of modern Disney films.
They do state their
You guys
theme
should go
too
see
much.
our review on A Wrinkle in Time, and you will totally see what we're saying. But yeah, they need to stop verbalizing things. I mean,
You want to see, you know when they started doing that? The Cinderella live action movie.
Oh, God.
They ruined that movie by over and over again. Actually, it started with like Peter Pan actually returned to Neverland, which actually isn't a terrible movie, but one of the worst things about that movie is that they keep saying faith, trust, and pixie dust. Faith, trust, and pixie dust. It's like,
God.
Shut up, okay? I get it.
That's another problem I have with, like, I love Once Upon a Time, the TV series, but sometimes it can get like that, and I'm just like, shut up.
Yeah, it's like, you don't have to be hokey, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, there's corny, and that can be good, but hokey like that is just...
I got that hope feeling, I got so much more of a hope feeling in A New Hope with them not cramming it down my throat than I did in this movie, because when somebody automatically tells me to do something, I ignore it. I mean, that's just how I am.
Yeah, it's like, I'd rather you do this subtly or I'm not going to pay attention.
Do it subtly, yeah.
That's like when you're like, your parent tells you something over and over and over and it's going in one ear out the other.
Exactly.
Because you're just hammering it into me and it's just pissing me off.
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
You know, show me, don't tell me.
No, the original trilogy is way better at that.
But
so
sometimes
good.
you can even verbalize it and it's not as annoying. Because like, some people complain that Rogue One did that with the Hope theme. And I didn't have an issue with Rogue One doing that. Not really. Except for the CGI Leia part.
There was just like a couple of scenes in that one that it
I personally, yeah, I feel like they only said it a couple of, 2 or 3 times. I mean, I didn't need Leia saying it at the end, but I wouldn't mind it if that CGI was better. Now that was an issue. I had an issue with Leia because they just didn't work hard enough to make it look like her.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed that scene, but yeah, it felt a little off because there was something.
I thought that's the kind of thing you were talking about when you were talking about CGI. I actually loved that they had not Palpatine, Tarkin in that movie, even though the mouth movements were off. Just aspects, not really the mouth, but I don't know, something about that.
I love Peter Cushing so much that
having a new Peter Cushing movie made me happy.
Yeah, but I do recognize that they needed to work on him a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean they haven't perfected it.
But I really loved that.
But that was spot on CGI. Aside from that, they haven't perfected the movements.
It's not perfected yet.
It's not.
Why are they?
Well, with some creatures,
why are they
like
bringing
animals,
things out that are not perfected? I don't understand.
No,
that.
I agree with that, and I've said that a lot. I do believe that they can do some things perfect, like animals.
You sit in a lab for 50 years and you perfect it, and then you bring it out. Like, don't show it to me that fast.
You know why? You don't get funding that way.
Well, what do they do? Like,
you got to show that something is useful if you want to keep getting support and working on it. That's what it is.
Back to that scene,
It's mainly horror movies where CGI bothers me because I can't believe that something is scary if I know it's not there. I can suspend belief for a CGI creature in a fantasy movie or something because, I mean, I know that it's fantasy, right? But if I'm supposed to be scared about it, then I have an issue with the fact that I know it's not there.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
But yeah, this whole adventure. I mean, it wasn't the adventure that annoyed me.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun adventure.
It was more of just the cramming down my throat of the Hope thing.
And you like Del Toro's character? Because a lot of people didn't. I loved it. I loved the stutter. I loved the whole performance.
I did like Del Toro's character.
And a lot of people didn't like it because they say he was pointless. Because it's not like he had an arc or anything. It's like,
oh, he's coming back.
Yeah, you really think they're not going to bring him back? Oh. There's no way they're not going to bring. I mean, even if they didn't bring him back, it was still it was one of those learning experiences.
He's absolutely coming back because did you hear his last line? He was like,
maybe,
yeah, which I loved that. I was like,
I thought he was fantastic.
Are you secretly
working
for us? Like, who are you working for? I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, because I'll be very surprised if they don't bring him back, and it'll be sad if they don't. But even still, I mean, again, that whole scene was like them learning about failure, and
it was also about like kind of showing our sweet little new girl that things are not always as they appear to be.
What do you mean?
She's very naive.
Yeah, that's one of the words I was looking for earlier. Naive and just. Maybe, I don't know if optimistic that might have been what I was thinking of, but I don't know if that's accurate. But she was very, excited and everything.
There weren't any really optimistic people in the original trilogy, were there? Like Leia was the only semi-optimistic one, but she was a realist also.
I think Luke was.
No. Luke was a pessimist for a long.
No, he just wanted to get out and do something. I think once he did, he was optimistic.
I can't go. I got stuff to do. The whole time.
Yeah, but then
I can't
once he got started, he was pretty optimistic about it. He's the one who wanted to go get it.
I don't think there were optimists to that extreme. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe the Ewoks.
I mean, but having optimism in it does not make it less Star Wars for me.
No, it's not about that. I actually I'm all for that. It's just
Leia was kind of an optimist. No, really. I mean, think about it. The very fact that she's leading this rebellion, you can't lead a rebellion well if you're not an optimist.
Okay, well, she does it in a way that it seems more realistic. I don't know.
I mean, she was more of an optimist than Mon Mothma ever was.
Yeah, I don't know. But that's what I was saying. I was like, if anybody, it's Leia, but she did it in a way to where she was also...
Well, she wasn't naively like,
right,
you know.
Right.
That was the big difference there.
But honestly, it's not her character that bugs me. It's not Rose that bugs me. It's like the overall feeling of everything. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's very, I don't know.
If I was going to say anything negative about the Rose character, like some people didn't like that, you know, I mean, some people just don't like any kind of issues. An agenda or something. And some people thought that Disney was pushing some kind of agenda by having the moment where Rose is having her little speech about warmongering. And it's like, this is a movie about war, and it's nothing out of place to talk about warmongering, and these people were warmongers, and that's how they were making their money.
No, I actually
that was very interesting, and I thought they did a really good job with that, and I like the way Benicio del Toro did that too, even more so, you know.
That's very World War II.
And I mean, it's an interesting thing when you think about it, because they're talking about how these people are never going to let the war stop, because that's how they make their money, and you can kind of think of, as much as I love Disney, that's kind of why Disney's never going to let the Star Wars stop, as long as they're bringing in money. But I love Disney and I love Star Wars, so I guess I don't care. We're going to enjoy the theme park.
Oh, yeah.
But it's going to be largely based on this trilogy, guys. Come on. But the mission to me made a lot of sense. Any issues I have with Rose were more like, not really issues, but just like later on where she's like sort of showing a romance feeling towards Finn that seemed kind of out of nowhere. But at the same time, when you see it again, I'm not sure that was really romantic. I mean, it might have just been a friendly kiss.
I think it was romantic for her, but he was like, what?
Well, I mean, it might have just been some people just give friendly kisses. I thought you were gonna die. You're my friend. I love you.
I know, but I don't think she was.
You think it was romantic for sure? I don't have a huge issue with it, but like that's the one thing that was a little weird for me for that character, just because it was a surprise that she was in love with him already. I don't know. No, if I had any issues with the casino scene, it was probably my biggest issue with the movie that comes at the end, and it has to do with the kids.
Oh yeah, but let's move on from there. Let's before we mention that.
No, well, I'm not going to talk about the ending part. But even from the beginning, to me, the kids are a little bit too. They're just too model looking, you know?
They are.
And Disney has a habit of doing that, and a lot of movies do.
Okay, let's say it now because it's.
Well, I don't want to talk about the ending part.
Oh God, but
I know, but just as a starter, as a teaser, let me say that whenever they show these little kids, I mean, they just look like they went to the model, like that website for models.
Yeah.
And just like got like 3 kids, you know, or like off the Disney Channel, and they're just too television commercial looking, too cute and perfect. Even I know he has a smudge of dirt on his face, but he still looks like he's a model.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that always includes some of that acting, like when they're peeking around the corner and it's like it looks like a commercial where you're catching Santa Claus setting up the tree. You know, like, ooh, you know, rebels, ooh.
A Folgers commercial.
Yeah, something like that. Actually, the Folgers commercials are better, but they get away. They get away from the. Yeah, they are. Those are true jerkers. Anyway, so they get away from the casino with Benicio del Toro, and they make their way to this. I guess they get captured basically by this ship. How do they get on? No, they're in disguise. They're full on in disguise.
Right, they're going into
as
the
Imperials.
ship.
Yeah, they sneak in. They sneak in disguise, and so they're trying to like do this code thing to. Anyway, it doesn't work out because they get caught. They get caught, and
because of Benicio.
Well, as he explained it, they were already caught, and so he cut a deal. So it was a very Lando type thing, except in this case, he just took the money and run. You know, he just.
I would think that Lando's a little more.
What?
I think Lando is better.
Well, I'm not saying one is better than the other, but that was definitely where they were, what they were going for.
He's a little more honorable, I guess.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, Lando, had second thoughts and everything.
Yeah.
This guy didn't, and that's why a lot of people were saying, "Oh, what a pointless character." And it's like, really? I mean, they're probably going to bring him back.
Yeah.
And I hope he comes back and turns good because I liked that character a lot. But anyway, so they end up escaping because BB-8 helps them escape. And there's a big fight with what's her name?
Well, meanwhile, Rey, we never mentioned when Rey left.
Yeah, I was just gonna finish with their mission first.
Their mission, okay, fine. Go
What's her? Because they cut back and forth throughout the movie.
I think now we should move to Rey.
Okay.
So Rey is. Did we say why Rey left the island?
She hasn't left. No, I mean, first she's on the island, and we were talking about how
she's training.
How Luke wouldn't train her.
Luke decided to.
We didn't even get to why.
Oh, okay.
It's the evening, and Luke goes up on the ship onto the Falcon, and we get that first shot of Luke on the Falcon.
Oh yeah, I like this scene a lot.
This is after a bit with Chewie and the Porgs, a little joke there. Which did you feel like that was enough of a Star Wars joke?
Which one?
Where Chewie's eating the Porg and.
It's like a Jedi joke.
Yeah, I mean.
With Ewoks.
Like an Ewok joke.
You know what I mean? Like the kind of quirkiness that the Ewoks brought.
Oh, Return of the Jedi. Okay, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I didn't have any trouble with it. So did you think the Porgs were okay? Because people were nervous about the Porgs because they were so cute and they looked like they were there to sell toys. And
I remember really liking them when I saw it in the theater, or mediocre liking them. And today I didn't like them.
You actually disliked them?
It was more of a like.
I mean, it's not like they
were more of a nuisance, I guess. I was like, get off of the screen, that sort of a thing.
I like the Porgs. I think they're fun. I love Ewoks. So because a lot of people were like, because the criticism they were giving the Porgs. Too. A lot of people don't though.
I know.
And the criticism they were giving the Porgs was that they were going to be the next Ewoks.
No.
And even if you say Disney made them to sell toys,
life form.
that's kind of what the Ewoks were too.
The Ewoks.
Yeah, they're just like animals and stuff. But they were funny. I thought they were funny. I thought that they were used well.
I think what would have been funnier is if and more true to his character, if Chewie had just like looked at him and bit into the chicken or whatever he was, the pork. I think that would have been awesome.
Well, we don't know if he ate it. I didn't think that it was untrue to his character. I feel like had this not been a
Disney movie, they would have done that, and that would have been amazing.
I mean, I don't think we have anything to base that on to say that was not like how Chewie would react. We don't know if he ate it. I hope he ate it because he already killed it.
Yeah.
2 of them actually. I think he probably ate it anyway.
Good.
But, I'm wondering if we're going to see Porgs like in the future movies because they ended up on the Falcon and it seemed like one of them was becoming the pet.
Oh yeah.
Which wouldn't bother me. I don't care if Chewie's got a pet or something.
That's weird.
But okay, so Luke finally got onto the Falcon and then he finally sees R2 and
oh, and there's a reunion and it's so wonderful.
Really good little
and
reunion.
Then R2 asks him why he's not coming with them and he tells him that I don't remember exactly what he tells him, but he says he's not going. And then he said there's nothing in this world that can make me go. And then R2 shows him the
original hologram of Leia doing the "Help Me, Obi-Wan Kenobi."
What did he say? That was
You're my only hope. That was a cheap move. And that was hilarious. And that was an amazing, awesome scene.
Yeah, that was great.
And then, so that's what convinces him, you know. So, because Rey has been telling him, Leia sent me.
I'm a little surprised that he didn't feel Han dying.
Oh, actually, because he's cut himself off from the Force.
Oh, I forgot about that.
He's totally not using the Force because he's...
Yeah, I forgot.
For one thing, he doesn't want anyone else to find him, I guess, probably any bad people.
That makes sense.
let alone any other people who want to be trained or anything, you know, or Leia, because Leia could probably find him.
Yeah, that's true.
With the Force, so. He decides to train her. He says he's going to give her 3 lessons, and the point of the lessons will also be why the Jedi has to come to an end.
Right.
And so the next day, that's what he does. But before he starts,
I guess he's expecting her to fail almost all the lessons. I don't know.
I don't know about that. I think he just wants to teach her about how arrogant the Jedi were.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the first lesson where, he was like...
Oh, that was fantastic. But before they did the lessons, she makes her connection with Kylo. And that might have even started earlier. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was like a slow connection though. And she was very angry at him the first few times.
Yeah, she's full of hate because of what happened with Han Solo.
Yeah.
But anyway, they a few times they have like a psychic connection where through the Force where they see each other, and he says, "Where are you? I can't see where you are or anything."
I can only see you.
You can only see you, and it's kind of funny how he's acting towards her. He's just kind of like, how is this happening and stuff? But he's very mellow about it for him.
True.
But she's full of like anger and everything, and but he doesn't really get the answers he wants. But he's kind of like
I think he's trying to like bring
harasses
her
a little bit.
Yeah.
He asks her, did Luke tell you, what happened? Why why I left? Why I burned down the temple and everything? And
I think Luke had already told her one story, or like just a small portion of it. He left some stuff out.
Did he?
And then Kylo told her his side of the story, and then eventually.
Eventually, you get the actual story from Luke.
Yeah.
We assume is the actual story.
Right.
Kylo's side of it is that he woke up one night and Luke was trying to kill him.
Yeah.
And so that's why he, turned and killed half the
Which
other
is
students.
kind of valid, I would say. I mean, I wouldn't kill half the students.
Yeah,
I would defend myself and run away.
The others probably attacked him because he, was attacking Luke. But
yeah.
in his point of view, and that's one thing I wanted to say about this film, is that it does a lot of dealing with the point of view, which has always kind of been a theme in Star Wars, which was interesting. There's a lot of this is very true to Star Wars in my opinion. But yeah, Luke stopped, but you get that from Luke's side of the story, and I can see why maybe Kylo wouldn't know that Luke had. With Luke, it was only a second that he thought about it, and then but that included turning on his lightsaber, which was the problem.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because when Kylo tells the story and we see the flashback, Luke looks super evil
and crazy.
And then when later on, when Rey finally gets the story out of Luke, she has to really get after him to get it.
Very human. It's very human.
Yeah, it is totally like this was just like a misunderstanding kind of a thing. Some people have said it was so stupid. The way that happened, that it was like it made Luke look like a bumbling idiot. And when you watch the movie, no, it doesn't.
Why would that make Luke look like a bumbling idiot?
I saw one guy's review, and he was talking about how he referenced a British comedian. I'm not sure. I almost feel like I know I almost feel like he put up a still of the comedian. Looked like it was Michael Crawford. Maybe when he was younger, he did some comedy bits. But anyway, it was about a guy who would fumble and people would get the wrong impression. And that was like what happened with Luke. And I'm like, yeah, but this happens in real life, and it doesn't always happen with fumbling around and being a klutzy idiot. And that's not how it was shown.
I would say that like with Luke and Leia and Han, they were very true to keeping their character the same. You know what I mean? Like after you watch Jedi, you can see him being this person.
Right.
You can see Luke being this person, I mean, he does not seem like a bumbling idiot to me. He seems very composed and everything. I mean, he's just angry now,
Yeah.
you know? But,
And a lot of the Luke fans are just angry that he turned out, in this
So-
situation. Just
that he's not like a star Jedi. That
basically
they're
that
angry
he's
about
not some big Jedi hero with a bunch of new Jedi that he's trained.
And that he didn't
stuff.
actually show up to fight at the end. Ooh.
Well, we're getting to that, but that is part of it. But at the heart of this, at the heart of these complaints, is an idea of Luke that people have developed in their own head.
Yeah, he's very human.
Partly
He's
from,
not-
and part of it is from that we used to have all those books and things.
the books.
And that's a huge part of it. And they can deny it, forever. That's what it is. We read all these books and got all these really great stories, a lot of them, about Luke continuing, the way you would imagine. Continuing to be a Jedi, training new students, training, children of Han and Leia, training his own children and stuff. And just,
life usually doesn't happen that way.
but
You
that's, but movies usually do.
I guess.
I think.
Not nowadays.
Not now, because they want to mix it up now.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of fans are just bitter that it didn't work out great for Luke, or at least work out like that. You know?
I really like and enjoy the fact that, I mean, looking at him as a kid, in A New Hope, he's such a human character. I mean, he's kind of bratty and everything, I can see. I wouldn't have wanted them to make him like this Star Jedi. I don't think.
And we still wouldn't have gotten to see all that stuff anyway.
Right. I mean, you have Leia. You have
animation.
Leia, who is the one who continued, and I mean, she's.
Well, she's doing the same thing she used to be.
Right.
And that almost seemed like that's the one that I.
Well, she had already reached the highest point that she could reach. I mean, so either you continue to do that, or you just.
Well, in the novels and stuff, she became the leader of the government, like the president, basically.
Yeah.
I forget what that was called in the old Republic, but Chancellor.
I kind
the
of got the
Chancellor.
sense that she was that here.
Well, here she's back to being the rebel leader.
They
It's the
think of
same
her as
thing,
like
but it's
the-
not like being president of the galaxy, which is kind of what she becomes in.
Maybe she did that previously.
But yeah, exactly, and that's what I was going to say, because like we said, at the beginning they talk about how for a while they had a New Republic, which is what it was called in the old books, the New Republic. And so we don't know that Luke didn't go on a bunch of awesome Jedi adventures before
He probably
started
did.
teaching,
Yeah, he probably did.
And we don't know. Obviously, he did train Leia some,
Because what? Like, Kylo Ren is supposed to be what, like 20?
That's what I was. Also, another thing, because obviously that wasn't that long ago.
That was only 10 years ago. Or, 5 years ago.
Probably. I don't know.
But he's supposed to be like 25 or something.
You think
right?
he's supposed to be that young? I don't know.
I think he's supposed to be like in his 20s.
I guess he's
because
probably.
Rey is supposed to be in her 20s. I don't know why I just put those two together. But you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they should. For some reason, I have this idea that they're twins. But I don't
You
know.
still have hope that there's going to be more info about Rey's parents.
I do.
Different from what was told. We haven't gotten into what
You know what?
was told.
I'm okay with the info they gave
Yeah.
us. I mean, that's cool. But I have a weird feeling that that's not true for some reason.
Right. Well, you got to
know?
save something for the third movie.
The reveal, yeah.
Right. You have to save something, and this connection. Snoke says later in the film that later in the film that he's the one who caused them to have that connection.
Right.
I'm not sure that's true.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true either. And I really don't believe.
They still have it after Snoke is killed, I think.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do.
They do?
Because we're getting ahead.
Oh,
but,
they do.
Yeah. Mhm.
See. See.
So either
they're
it lingered pretty
twins.
well, or she thinks they're twins. I could almost buy that, but there are issues of like,
Or brother and sister, whatever.
I feel like they would have told her. I don't know why they wouldn't.
No,
have.
I think Leia's protecting her.
From-
I think they're protecting her.
I'm not sure from what. In that case.
So that people don't find out that she's Leia's daughter for some reason. I don't know. Just
I
like,
just don't know
just
why it
like
would
they
matter.
hid, just like they hid
Yeah, but
them at the beginning too. You know.
they already are after. They already want Rey. They already know she's super powerful. I don't see what difference it would make if they
why
knew.
do they ever hide things from their children?
The only possibility I can imagine is if when they were born, whoever was assisting with the births stole one of the babies
her?
and said that you only had one, or you had one and the other one died, or
That
something.
would be
that stuff happens in
interesting.
real life, you know. So I don't
That
know.
would be really interesting. But yeah, I feel like they have a weird twin connection.
It does seem like they have a weird twin connection, and I don't know if it could just be Snoke did that, but I would be also like you. I would be fine if
I would be fine
if it was
too.
true, that, it does feed into the idea that they're trying to push that, like, look, there's more to Star Wars than the Skywalkers. I get that, you know, and that anybody could turn out to be a Jedi.
Ooh, but that line that really got me is when Kylo Ren told her, "You don't belong in this story," or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Ooh, I hate you."
that was awesome though, and yeah, that was good.
Oh man.
And that almost makes you think, well, maybe they're gonna explain how she does later in the next movie. But again, you know, it works totally if she's just like showing, you know, new blood.
Because they used to say that the Jedis come from random families all the time, right?
Yeah, well, they do,
Yeah.
and that's they want to like reinforce that idea in this movie.
Yeah,
that's
cool.
what the very last scene is, which we're gonna talk about later. But that made me think of something that I don't know how it didn't register with me so much in the prequels, but you know how there's that idea that Anakin was like some kind of miracle birth with no father. There's that scene where, and I know I'm going to sound like an idiot for saying I never like really paid attention to this, but the scene where they're at the opera and or whatever it is, and Palpatine is talking to Anakin and talks about Darth Plagueis, which we assume was Palpatine's master.
Right.
And Palpatine is saying that Darth Plagueis had even learned how to create life.
Ooh.
And then he starts talking about how the apprentice killed him after he learned all his secrets.
Yeah.
So they were kind of implying that maybe Palpatine actually caused Anakin to be born. I don't know.
Smoking Man style.
It was really, yeah, exactly.
This is a recurring theme in our society these days.
And it brings in like that whole idea of like, so the Skywalkers aren't this miracle thing.
Yeah.
It's something that, you know, somebody made it happen and everything.
I don't like that.
It takes away, well, you know, that the prequels take away a lot of the magic of Star Wars.
They do.
But actually, I mean, that's not, I mean, we never had that idea beforehand that they were a miracle birth or anything anyway. That's still something the prequels brought out, so that really didn't hurt anything. But it was really interesting. But that's interesting about Rey. I don't know. I would like for her to be connected.
Me too.
Just because, you know, I don't know.
So
to me, it's Star Wars, it's Skywalkers
she's so
and
connected
stuff.
to these people.
But I think it's also cool that she's just her own thing too. So Luke trains her. She starts connecting with Kylo. She gets the two stories, you know, two versions of the story. We assume Luke's is the truthful one. But she gets the idea, because she has a dream that she can, she sees like a vision, I guess, or
right.
dream.
She's trying to find her parents, and then she thinks she's about to see them in the dream, and she just winds up looking at herself, which I don't know what that is supposed to imply.
Well, what I was going to mention though is that and they didn't really show this, I guess. She has some kind of dream about Kylo fighting with her, basically.
Oh, I don't remember that.
They didn't actually show that, but she mentions it, and she's insistent that he's going to turn good.
Oh yeah, she told Luke that.
She tells Luke that, and later she even tells Kylo that.
Yeah.
So she tells Luke that, and that's why she's convinced she has to leave the island.
Right, but Luke is like, don't do this, in true Yoda style.
And they have a big confrontation there.
Yeah.
And she's just like, no, I gotta go. And so she...
Oh, well, she gives him the option again. She brings out the lightsaber and she's like, okay, if you don't want me to go, then are you going to fight with us? You know what I mean? Because we need somebody. And then he was like, no. And then so she's like, fine, then I'll go and get Kylo. Which makes me sad because why does she think that Kylo is the only hope? Why doesn't she think of herself as being able to do these things, you know what I mean? Like, I know she's just learning, but she is the one hope, you know?
Well, she probably doesn't think that she's enough on her own.
Maybe.
Or that she doesn't have enough training on her own. Because Kylo does have training. It's, you know, I guess...
So I guess we're going to
I don't know if it's Sith training, but I guess it is.
I guess we're going to assume that Leia's going to teach her in between this one and the next movie.
That would be interesting.
Because
you never know. Who knows?
Leia's going to teach all she knows.
You mean they're just going to show that in the crawl, or have her mention it and stuff?
No, she'll mention it. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Actually, I never thought about that.
Because otherwise, like she's. I mean, I know the ancient texts are gone. I'm assuming that they have copies somewhere.
Oh no! She took them with her.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Okay, this is an important thing.
When did that happen?
She takes them on the Falcon. And you know what? I don't remember seeing it myself, but so many people have mentioned this.
No.
And so I must have just missed it myself, and I haven't been watching for it, even though I've seen the movie a million times.
Then she doesn't really need Leia, does she?
I feel like maybe I saw it at some point, but anyway, yeah, she took the books, right? But Luke doesn't know.
No, he thinks he can
And
screw
Luke,
everything.
after she leaves, Luke is like, "I'm gonna burn down that tree." They keep him in a tree or something, some kind of sacred Jedi tree, and with the books in it.
You know
or
what
something.
though? Yoda knew.
Oh yeah, Yoda knew.
Yeah.
Yoda pops up and he's like, and that might be why he made sure the thing got burned down.
Yeah,
He
just
didn't
so
want
Luke
to know.
would think that. Yeah.
So Luke's gonna burn it down, and Yoda appears, and he tells Yoda, "I'm gonna burn down the tree with the books and everything," and he heads over to it and with a torch, and he can't do it.
No.
So then Yoda just has like a lightning bolt.
And Yoda's all like quirky and stuff. He's being Yoda.
So what'd you think about Yoda in this?
Oh, I loved him. Frank Oz's voice is getting a little bit cracky.
Well, I don't know if we're gonna see Yoda ever again. Anyway.
I know. But
I mean, maybe
nice.
in the next one they might do the.
It was really nice,
the ghosts.
and I really enjoyed the puppet.
Yeah.
And it was just awesome.
Yeah, and when I first saw it, I was like, that puppet looks a little off, but it looks fine to me now that I've been watching it on home.
It's because our TVs are so clear and stuff.
I don't know. I think there are a couple of angles where his head looks a little small in the back or something, or his turtleneck looks a little high. I don't know, but he looks a lot better now. The more that I've been watching it, and actually looks really good. It looks a lot like Jedi Yoda, Return of the Jedi Yoda. And Frank Oz, I wasn't sure that.
Oh, I'm so glad they got him.
He was back, but yeah, he came back for that, so that was awesome. So yeah, that whole scene is just amazing. Like
I loved it.
Luke and Yoda together.
But do you see what I mean now? Like there are scenes that are so Star Wars, and then there are scenes that are not quite Star Wars.
But it's mostly when you have the old characters, and it's just. Yeah, I feel like it's people hung up on the old characters, and again, it's like what I was saying before. I think people aren't willing to accept new stuff that much, and that's the problem.
No, because I think that Rey is very Star Wars, and I think that Poe is very Star Wars. I'm still not sold yet on what's his face.
On Finn?
On Finn.
Finn is my favorite one. He's the most relatable one.
I'm still not sold.
He's got a lot of. Poe is kind of a mix of Luke and Han, and then his own thing because he's actually a mix of all of them. But like. Finn has a lot of that Han stuff in him too, Han and Luke too. I think these new characters, and maybe it gives them more dimension, is they're kind of mixes of the old ones.
Yeah, I haven't latched onto him yet. He doesn't remind me of Star Wars yet. But yeah, I like the new characters. I mean.
Well, that's good.
I don't know.
I see posts online and stuff like I saw a post recently and it had just old Han and old Luke and old Leia in the cockpit, and it was one of those angry posts like, "This is what I wanted or what I expected."
Oh.
It's like, yeah, the Golden Girls in space or something, you know. It's like old people flying around. I think Luke could carry a movie. I think Mark Hamill is still virile enough to carry a movie.
He looks great,
and that's why it was kind of a shame what happened to his character, because I don't think they should have gone that route. But you know, it's not that it didn't work for me.
But he'll come back so much more powerful, and he's gonna oh my goodness. I just bit myself. He'll come back as a ghost, like so much more powerful. It'll be really nice.
It'll be cool to see him as a ghost, but
that hurt.
They could have killed him in the next one and then shown him as a ghost later.
Yeah, true.
It seems like they could have done so much more with Mark Hamill. It's just hard to deal with the fact that they didn't make a Star Wars movie, for so long with, continuing the story.
Yeah.
It was all that wasted time with these characters could have kept going. And I think a lot of people are just bitter about that, and I get that. Mm-hmm. But, I'm just happy that we've got new Star Wars movies. Mm-hmm. And I think they're great. So far, the Disney ones, I've loved them all. Even if there are things I would have done differently. So what? They're still good. So what happens? Luke has this conversation with Yoda, and Yoda tells him how it's how one of the most important things you have to learn is failure.
Mm-hmm. Failure is the greatest teacher of all.
Yeah, and that's the whole
lesson.
That's the whole movie, and it doesn't feel pounded into you like like some things that they're trying to teach you.
No.
And it's the main theme of the movie, and
it's
I just love that.
It's very true. I love it too. Yeah.
And it's why a lot of scenes that a lot of people don't like were still important to the movie. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so he has something to think about then after talking to Yoda. Rey is on her way with Chewie and R2
to find Kylo.
She's following the
tracker.
The tracker that is it Finn's tracker, or she goes to Kylo first, doesn't she?
Yeah, she goes to Kylo first.
So I guess she just uses the Force. I don't remember how she found Kylo, but anyway, she gets back to wherever they are, and she lets herself get captured. She goes out in an escape pod, and
which is so it's very Jedi.
Oh yeah. Like Luke and Vader.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Even like in the elevator.
Right.
Whatever.
He turns himself into Vader, and then they're riding up in the elevator.
Yeah.
And
I swear the same conversation is happening, probably.
Yeah, it's kind of different.
Like, you're not going to turn me in or whatever.
No, actually, what this conversation was, she's telling him, I know you turned good because I saw it in a dream or something, or a vision. Mm-hmm. And she says, I saw you fighting beside me. And he says, I know you're the one who turns. It's a little funny. Yeah. It's a little bit goofy, but he's like, well, I know you're the one who turns because I saw you fighting next to me.
I don't think that's goofy.
No, it works. It wasn't too goofy. It still worked. So they get up to see Snoke, and then they go. He's turning her into Snoke. Mm-hmm. And then it's same. It is very much Jedi-like where. He's taken to the Emperor.
Exactly. I wonder why they thought that was a good idea to rehash that exact scene.
Well, it's not exactly the same. We know it's not exactly the same in a lot of ways, but there's a lot of things. I remember when Lucas was making the prequels, and again, I don't flat out hate them. I enjoy watching them. There's things in them I like, but he would say. That these movies are supposed to rhyme.
Yeah.
Now, you can kind of make an excuse that's something that allows for them to go back and sort of rehash things.
I guess.
But he wanted the movies to rhyme like the trilogies and stuff. So it's like, kind of that's kind of a way of saying he wanted to be able to rehash stuff, I guess.
That's weird.
I don't know, but I kind of see what he's saying, and I mean, it's not exactly the same with this, because this is a little bit more like rehashing, but...
Yeah.
But I don't know, because it was pretty different. Because what happens here is when they face Snoke, and Snoke is you know, being a jerk like the Emperor was, sort of bragging and stuff.
But not intimidating at all.
Well, no. But he trying to, you know, turn a Rey or else you're gonna die or whatever. Finally, he just says, you know, kill her because she's not coming around, right? And she's saying, no, he's gonna you know, help me fight you. And Snoke is like, no way, I can see everything he's doing. He's turning his lightsaber to you and all that.
Kylo gets mad for some reason. What does Kylo get frustrated with?
At Snoke?
Yeah, that's why. Because that's the reason why he turned on him.
I think it's because of Rey saying.
I don't remember why.
I think it was stuff that Rey was saying. I don't think it was like as much about her.
No, there was
angry.
a moment that he said something, and then it changed to Kylo, and he gave this look like, oh.
I don't remember
what it was.
But he does get mad and he kills Snoke.
And I love the way that he killed him. I thought that was great.
Yeah, it's like he was saying, I see, you know, him turning his lightsaber, but meanwhile Rey's lightsaber is over there next to Snoke and it's turning, and he's sort of like disguising his movements by doing it.
Yeah.
You know, with his own lightsaber
And he said he's gonna kill his sworn his worst enemy or whatever.
And then the lightsaber turns on, kills Snoke, and all of this scene to me is just awesome. I love this scene.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This was fantastic. This was like the equivalent to the Vader scene.
Yeah.
In Rogue One.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Because you know, he pulls the lightsaber through Snoke. It goes to Rey, and then they stand up next to each other, and just like they both had seen, they're fighting together.
Yeah.
And they kill all the guards. Snoke is laying there dead.
So see, they do have a connection without Snoke.
Yeah, even later we see that they have a connection.
They're twins.
But they kill off all these Praetorian guards. For a while I was like, because a lot of people have been asking, there's been two issues with this. For one thing, a lot of people are like, did they just drop that whole plot line about the Knights of Ren? Because Kylo is supposed to have taken like some of Luke's students, the ones he didn't kill.
Yeah.
And I guess they're the Knights of Ren. And he's the leader, but we haven't heard or seen anything about them.
Well, maybe that failed.
I feel like that is something that will get addressed in the next movie.
Maybe.
But for a while I was like, is that what these guards are? Are these guards the Knights of Ren? But I think there were too many of them because he had like a lot of guards. He had like 8 of them.
They weren't good enough to be Jedis.
Nah, but you know, they had to fight with them for a while, but then there was a lot of them. But so anyway, so they kill all the guards together. And the other thing is that Snoke, we never find out who Snoke is in this film. And a lot of people were really upset about that. Basically, people were upset with this movie because it didn't really give satisfying answers to them.
Okay.
We didn't find out who Snoke was, and of course with Rey, as we find out in is it in this scene? Yeah, we're about to. After they kill Snoke, we find out that he is not turning to the good side.
No, he just wants.
He wants her to join him.
He wants to rule with her, which is kind of.
It's out of Empire. It's that classic.
Why does he want? Just because she's powerful?
I think so.
That's it.
And he's probably lonely. And a lot of people.
I really hope this isn't another Luke and Leia scenario where he's like.
Because you think that you still think that they're brother and sister. And for a long time, I thought they were going to turn out to be cousins.
Well, something like that.
But yeah, I don't think that anymore. I don't think that's Luke's daughter. But
no, I don't think so either. I think it's Han's daughter. That's what I think.
I think it's probably going to be that, you know, like they
Just
said,
random.
she's no parents. Well, her parents are just.
Maybe.
Basically, he tells her, "Your parents, you know who your parents were, right?" And she's like, "Yes." She finally has to admit it that as far as she knows, they were just junk dealers that traded her for alcohol or something.
He said that they were just drunk dealers. Yeah.
And but she feels that it's true. Now, maybe it could just be
I think
people
it's
who
clouding,
raised her for a while.
I think
Who
it's
knows?
clouding her judgment. I don't think she knows really.
I think it's the truth, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's not. And it would be interesting if it wasn't.
Yeah.
And there is still another movie, so I don't know why people are getting so mad about things until we see the next movie. I guess they just want some things to be revealed in this movie, but whatever. So he's doing the whole bit from Empire, join me.
Yeah.
And of course she's like, no way, I can't do that. And how does she get away here? I forget what happens here.
How does she get away?
Like, how does this go for her? She gets away somehow.
They're going at each other, and then the lightsaber breaks in half.
Oh, okay. They're
And
kind of
then-
like, yeah, the lightsaber. They're like doing this and this, and the lightsaber's floating in between them, and it
Yeah, and
breaks.
then somebody blows up the ship.
Somebody blows up the ship. I don't remember. Oh yeah, that's when Holdo does her suicide.
Yeah.
Her suicide bit. Which before we get to that, so Snoke and the no reveal about Snoke. What do you think about that? Like we find out he's just a regular guy.
I care.
Oh, I mean not that he's just a regular guy, but we just don't find out anything about him.
I care nothing about Snoke, so I don't.
You don't want any reveal about him.
I don't want to ever hear about him again.
You keep saying how he he's not intimidating at all, and I almost feel like, and I was sort of saying, yeah, they could have done a better job with that, but I almost feel like he's not supposed to be that big a deal.
Okay.
Not just because of how they didn't explain anything about him, but also because they killed him off already.
Maybe.
So obviously he's not supposed to
So
be.
who's the man behind the curtain, you're saying?
Well, no, I'm saying.
Who's the
this
other
is-
person ruling over Snoke?
No, I'm saying the big villain of this trilogy is not
Ren?
Snoke, it's Kylo.
Kylo Ren? Yeah, maybe.
Whether or not he stays a villain, he is the main bad guy here.
Maybe.
I mean, they could pull somebody else out, but nobody's going to like that because brand new character,
In the last
villain
movie.
behind all of it.
Yeah. That would
That's
be
like
cool.
Scream 3, where it's like, really, who the heck is this guy?
I'm okay with it was Scream 2 that was wrong. I'm okay with Kylo Ren being
It was
the main
funny,
villain.
though. I enjoyed Scream
I think
3.
that's cool.
Oh, Scream 2. Yeah. That one's a little... Yeah, so, I can't fault them too much for Snoke not being that intimidating. They obviously didn't have, long-term plans for him, I guess. But, as far as him not having, a backstory or anything, a lot of people have said the Emperor didn't either. So what's the big deal about Snoke not having one?
Yeah.
Until the prequels came out, then we found out the Emperor's backstory.
I'm not a person who needs backstory, really.
Well, you know what? I felt that way for a while. I kind of agreed with that. It's like, you're right, the Emperor didn't have any kind of backstory until they went ahead and made prequels. But I feel like I don't have an issue with it, but I can understand the complaints because the universe of Star Wars has gotten so detailed at this point that to not know about a character like that doesn't make a lot of sense. It's because this isn't the first movie.
Right.
This isn't because A New Hope was a very simple movie. It was a very simple. We're gonna go rescue the princess. It's like rescuing the princess from the dragon's cave.
Yeah.
And we didn't know about that stuff back then, about the Emperor or anything. But at this point, Star Wars has so many things going on, and so many details about almost everyone that it is kind of weird to have this character that you don't know anything about, and then you never find anything about them later.
Oh, well.
I just think it's a little weird.
We don't have a backstory for Finn or for Poe or for...
We do. We know what happened to Finn. He was taken from his family and forced into being a stormtrooper. We don't know that much about Snoke, as much as we know about the others.
I guess that's true.
Poe, you can read up on his backstory. It's in the comics, but he's the child of two pilots that were rebel pilots in Jedi, two of the best
That's cool.
rebels. But I mean, he's a rebel pilot and everything. But
do they actually connect those characters with Jedi? Or are they just random?
oh no, they're not in the movie. They're just in the comics. But of course, you can't people don't read the comics usually.
Yeah. So.
But I mean, you know enough about them. But and beyond that, we're still gonna find out. You're still finding out about them.
Mm-hmm.
Snoke is done. Probably not gonna hear anything else about
True.
who he was. But I mean, it doesn't bother me. I just think
no, it doesn't bother me.
it would have been a little better if they had said something about where he came from.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just keep pulling characters out of nowhere and not say anything about them. But especially something that important, character that important. But it's okay because he's not even the main baddie.
Mm-hmm.
So, from here, yeah, what shakes everything up and lets Rey get away is Admiral Holdo doing a suicide mission where she flies into hyperspace through a Star Destroyer,
Which
I think.
was so amazing. Yeah, so she was trying to she got everybody on the escape pods, and she had gone back onto the ship because for some reason she couldn't man the ship, or she had to man the ship.
Oh yeah, this is what we discussed earlier. It's like, why would you do that yourself? And
I mean, beep pop pop beep, like that's all you gotta do and then leave. But
it was a great dramatic moment.
It was.
It's my main problem with the as far as having an issue with the film, it's not an issue that makes me not be able to enjoy it.
No, me
but
either. I don't.
It is a. If I feel like
her.
they did anything dumb in the movie, it's like, why would she have to kill herself?
I really liked her. I don't know what's wrong with her.
I'm okay with her. I didn't have strong feelings about her either way, really.
And I redeemed that. That death redeemed her towards.
Yeah.
Poe.
She was, because Poe basically he had a mutiny. He caused a mutiny over her, and he took control for a very brief time. Mm-hmm. And then Leia recovered. So Leia came in.
No, it was it wasn't Leia. It was
Oh, she's the one who got away.
Yeah.
Yeah, but didn't she bring Leia back?
Well, yeah. I mean, something happened, but she was a badass, and she got her gun out and she started shooting at him.
Right.
It was awesome. I was like, this chick has a history that we don't even know about.
Oh, okay. So they didn't manage to take over, really, did they?
They did for about 5 seconds.
Okay, for about 5 seconds, yeah. I know they were huddled in a room trying to like run things,
mm-hmm.
and the door started open, and they thought it was I guess they thought it was Holdo or the First Order or somebody, but Leia came in with Holdo.
And then she Leia shot him or
they
stunned him.
They arrested them and took she stunned him,
mm-hmm.
and then they took. The few key characters that were on Poe's side.
Carrie Fisher's daughter and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I guess it was a very short term because once they needed their help again, they were back to helping.
Yeah, I mean...
It wasn't a serious punishment apparently.
It was just like, oh, the kids are off doing their thing again.
Yeah, and they even, as they were hauling him off, he was stunned, but they were like, I like that guy.
Yeah, that was cool. See, I really liked that character.
Yeah.
And I liked that she was kind of talking to Leia and stuff.
Right.
And then we had that cheesy...
the moment where they're parting ways and they know she's going to go do a suicide mission.
Right.
And you didn't like that line? What was it?
No, actually, I said I feel like had it been done any other way, it would have been cheesy, but it actually came off really well. So.
Oh, okay, good. So that's when, she did her bit. And... But even that, as far as deciding to full on ram the,
Right, she hadn't decided that until they started firing on the escape.
Yeah, they were taking out the escape ships. I'm not sure. I don't remember why they didn't expect them to do that, but but anyway, they started doing that, and
somebody told them that they were. Somebody found out why they were going to that deserted planet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I know that Finn...
Originally, they were just firing the big ship. On the big ship, yeah. And then somebody found out and...
Yeah, I don't remember what happened there.
Oh, I remember. Okay, so it was Benicio, I can't say his name.
Benicio del Toro.
Benicio del Toro.
Oh, yeah. He told them some stuff. I don't remember the details on that, but yeah. So it was because of him. We forgot to mention that Finn and Rose and BB-8 did make it back to the ships.
Just because of...
Before they had to, I guess, was it before they had to... When did they make it back to the ships?
They made it back after that suicide.
After the suicide mission,
Yeah.
okay.
Because that's what caused everything to go a little haywire.
Yeah, so
And-
I guess, yeah, everything was hitting the fan right then. And
Phasma and everything.
oh yeah, I never mentioned that. I
She
was
there.
about to mention that battle with Captain Phasma. What did you think about that? Because a lot of people were very frustrated about that character being underused in the first movie, and like that she was sort of made out to be a badass and she didn't really do anything. And then in this movie, even less, you know? She just comes out for a minute and...
I really liked it, and I really
you liked
liked
the
her.
scene, the little battle, even though it was like a second long.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me because I never put all this like excitement into Phasma.
Me either.
That other people, I don't even know why people were always so excited about Phasma. She was just a lead stormtrooper, just happened to have a chrome suit.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even think that chrome suit was all that cool. Like, it's just a chrome suit. And yeah, I thought it was fun. She's from Game of Thrones. The only thing I know about her is that she's from Game of Thrones,
So
and
it's
she's
not-
really super tall.
It's not the girl from 300. For some reason, I always see her.
I
With
haven't
her
seen
voice.
300 in so long.
Oh, okay, never mind.
But yeah, the funny thing about the complaints about that is that it's exactly what happened with Boba Fett in terms of everybody loved Boba Fett when he didn't do hardly anything in the movies.
Because he was just kind of this character that was mysterious.
Yeah, all he did was, you know, of all the bounty hunters, he's the one that caught Han, but
And
it wasn't
then
like
when they
it wasn't
started
like super hard.
When they started bringing him out of the shadows, then people started getting pissed off. Right?
Yeah, I don't. They were pissed off because I guess they were hoping he would be a bigger character in Jedi, and then in Jedi all he did was die. You know?
Well, yeah.
And a lot of people thought that death was really lame, you know. So it was a big thing on Jedi because you know they've been complaining about these movies at least since Jedi. Probably some people complain about Empire, but. So yeah, to me it's just like you know, if you like Boba, I don't know why you have a problem with Phasma, but I didn't think much of it. So anyway, Phasma basically we assume got killed. She fell into the fire.
Yeah.
And it seemed pretty much like she couldn't survive that. I don't know how special her suit is though. Maybe it's got some kind of special deal with it.
You know what? I think that. Sorry, this is off side topic, but I think that they got inspired for Laura Dern's character, I think, by Mothma. You know what I mean? Like, it looks...
Mon Mothma?
Yeah, she looks she reminds me a lot.
Some of the style, you mean?
She reminds me a lot of Laura
Oh,
Dern.
even the personality, right?
Yeah, the person.
I
and the
can
personality.
kind of see that. I think Mon Mothma does a better job of... Well, she's got that regal
She's a little
look.
more
She's a little more regal.
Yeah. She's
But yeah,
British.
I can see that. I mean, and I know that they developed these characters more in because I've talked about the old books. Now they have new books, and the new books are actually canon. But it's like most people who see the movies don't read them,
Right.
so really it doesn't count. But I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, she was really cool in the book," and then they didn't make her as cool in the movie. But I don't know. I didn't have a problem with any of those characters. But so the rebellion, they start calling themselves a rebellion at some point.
Yeah.
I think they're like the rebellion is back, and they decide to go to Crate, which is a planet where they used to have a base. It looks like they used to have this base like before New Hope.
It was so decrepit.
Yeah, and they start using some fighters that were on that base that are really like falling apart,
Yeah.
like literally. And so they're gonna have this like standoff at this base, and it's like this planet that is like red crystal, but it's covered in like salt. And so it's got like a white kind of snow-looking layer over it.
Right.
And there are these foxes that look like crystal and everything, and they're living in this base now, the foxes. And so they go to this base, and they're kind of huddled up there. They don't know what to do because there's like hardly any of them. And
then Kylo Ren shows up.
Kylo Ren shows up with all the First Order because after killing Snoke, he took over. And he had to, like, toss Hux around to say, look, I'm in charge. I got power, so shut up. They were like, why should you be the leader? You know, force choke and all that. and so he takes, like, a bunch of new walkers. They're like AT-ATs, but I'm not sure what they're called. But basically, they're built like gorillas. They walk on their knuckle type things, like, and I assume this is some kind of advancement, so that like X-wings can't fly around their legs and like knock them over.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure exactly how this like would prevent that. I guess they're stronger looking legs. It looks like the lower part of the legs are like huge, you know, like gorilla arms. So pretty cool looking.
Yeah, I like
new walkers. What we're kind of doing here is we're addressing a lot of the popular complaints, you know?
Yeah.
And I know that I even saw some people say, well, why do they have to have new walkers in every movie and like new things? This is just Disney trying to sell toys. And it's like, do you not watch Star Wars? Every movie they have new troopers, they have new vehicles, they add to the whole universe.
Those are just people being bitter to be bitter.
I know. But I feel like you have to call them on it, even if they're trolling. I want to point out how stupid all these complaints are. And I mean, there's some legitimate complaints, but they're not enough to say this is a bad movie or whatever, you know. So anyway, he brings all these walkers, and he's got some flying ships too, and they're coming up on this base. Rey has escaped. And she's got the Falcon and R2 and Chewie, and they're like flying towards this base too. And everybody's down at the base now, and also Finn and everybody.
Right.
And they're like, so what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And
then Luke Skywalker walks in.
Luke Skywalker walks in.
And he goes straight to Leia, and he says something, and she.
They play that music, and he's like,
God, and I'm just like crying when this happens.
Talking about Han, you know, they talk about Han. They kind of joke around a little bit in a somber kind of way.
Yeah, and Luke gives Leia Han's dice.
Yeah.
That he had hanging in the Falcon. And what else? I think that's all they talk about.
Oh, that's it. He's like, I'm gonna go. He basically says he came to face Kylo Ren, and which kind of surprises Leia. I guess she just thought he was gonna be there with them when the end, but he's like, no, I'm here to face Kylo.
He was basically, I don't know if he was like asking permission, but he was like just checking in with her, saying, you know, he's bad, you know.
Oh, no,
like,
he was just telling her, look, I
don't think he's beyond.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean, asking permission, because she does say then, like, yeah, I don't have any more hope for him.
Yeah, which is really sad.
It's really sad, you know. And it's more about failure, but also about like living with it and learning from it and everything. And so he goes out to face Kylo. And you know, we're all like speculating, is Kylo going to be redeemed in the next movie? Because that might be kind of cliche, but
I feel like he should die.
I think I would prefer he be redeemed.
I feel like he should die because I feel like that would be just Darth Vader rehashed.
I get that. It would be Darth Vader rehashed, but at the same time, it's Han and Leia's son.
I know, but he killed Han.
I don't want him to die, honestly. Just if only because of that. And I know he killed Han, but he couldn't kill his mother. And to me, that says something.
That was nice.
And that does show that he's not just all bad like they are sure that he is.
Because he like lived with them for at least 15 years, right?
So, I don't know how many years, but he did live with them for quite a while. I don't know how long he was living with Luke before.
I mean, he grew up with them.
Well, we don't know what time. Remember that they used to take Jedi in as really small kids.
Yeah, but the flashback, he was like 30 years old.
Yeah, but that was already the end. That was already where things were.
Oh, that's true.
You know, Luke even said Snoke had already taken control of him somehow. So, so Luke goes out to face Kylo, and Kylo Kylo's like, fire everything at that guy. You know, they're firing all their weapons at him, and it doesn't do anything. Luke is still just standing there, and he's like, you know.
Yeah, I love that.
Which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, me too.
And I mean, you know, well, we'll get into this in a minute. But so Kylo goes down there freaking out, and he's like, I'm gonna kill this guy, you know, and they have their face off.
Their lightsaber fight.
And you know, they have their argument too, and about, you know, just what you would expect, and it's like, you're wrong,
says,
and you're right, and you're wrong.
Yeah, and he says, you're wrong, I'm not the last Jedi. And then he tells him that if you put me down, then I'm just gonna always be with you, just like your father.
Yeah. And then it just makes Kylo angry, and he tries to kill him, and he can't. He realizes Luke's not actually there.
Yep.
He's like a hologram.
I love that.
And when we see Luke, we see actual Luke.
Ooh, wait.
Still on the island.
Yeah. You see Luke on the island, and he's doing his.
Yeah, he's in his meditation pose, but he's like.
He's like
all constipated.
He's like pre-heart attack. Like he's about to have a heart attack.
He's red in the face. You know? And
but my favorite line in this whole thing is "See you around, kid."
Oh, right before he disappears?
I loved that.
Yeah.
I loved that so much.
He says, see you around, kid, and he disappears.
Oh my gosh.
And then we see Luke just like pass out on that rock. Not pass out, but
yeah, I
just
thought he was
flop
going to
over.
recover from that, but he didn't.
Yeah, it would have been nice if he had recovered from that. But he didn't.
But it made See You Around, Kid more meaningful. Now he's going to be coming back and haunting Kylo, which is amazing.
So yeah, it made that more of a see you around, kid, more of a statement. But
that's what Han used to call everybody. Call Luke.
Call Luke kid. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And Luke pulls himself up onto the rock, and he sees the sunset for the last time. And when he does, he like envisions the twin,
sunset.
The binary sunset.
And that is like my favorite scene in all of Star Wars is the binary sunset scene of Luke with Luke.
Yeah, and obviously it's a very it's a classic scene. I think it's a lot of people's favorite scene.
Yeah.
And
it's,
so he died
like
with that scene,
long.
Man.
I know.
And that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And but what I was gonna say is like this basically makes Luke like more of a legend than ever because he like had this face off with Kylo, and didn't get harmed, and he wasn't even really there, but that part of it might not get told,
Sure.
And he died, but like the amount of power. This is like a new thing we've never seen Jedi do. There were a few things in this movie that were totally new, and they were awesome. They were totally awesome.
I agree. And nobody saw this happening either because
they
had been escaping because for some reason they were just lingering around like watching the game happen, and then
I would want to see too.
And then Poe was like, he's doing this for a reason. He's trying to distract him.
Yeah, because Finn is like, let's go help him, and Poe's like, no, there's something's up here, and he figures out that it's a distraction, So so they go looking for some escape route because, as far as they know, there's no way out.
And they wind up at this pile of rocks where the little fox creatures had been leaving through, and Poe's just like, no! And then we see the Millennium Falcon arrive, and Rey is walking down, and she's like, I think these guys are here. And then she uses her force to move rocks.
To lift all the rocks.
Yeah.
Which is a throwback joke to earlier, because she was saying, as far as she knew of the Force, it was just being able to lift rocks and have power.
And move people and stuff.
Control people,
And Luke was like, everything you just said is wrong. I want you to know that.
So they all get onto the Falcon.
But,
were you going to say something?
Oh, yeah, I really enjoyed, there was when Luke was still facing Kylo, it was like flashing to Rey, who was moving the rocks, and he was like, you're wrong, I'm not the last Jedi, and that hope has been born today
Yeah.
and all that stuff. I loved that scene.
Yeah.
That was very Star Wars to me. Like, it was the other things that were so cramming down hope on your throat, you know? That was not.
I didn't feel too much that they were cramming hope down people's throat in this as you did, but I didn't really get that preachiness out of this one. I was more focused on the idea that this movie is like about failure and stuff, so I was picking up less on the hope vibe than I was on that.
Yeah.
And but something we forgot to mention before we get to the escape and the final scene is that before Luke showed up, we forgot about this. Before Luke showed up, they were going out in their fighters trying to face off with Kylo Ren and all the AT-AT.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that was a big scene.
And so they were in these clunky fighters, and it was Poe and Finn and Rose was in a fighter, and a couple of other rebels that we've seen before, that weird horse-faced guy.
And basically these
Leia's.
clunkers are so bad that they just keep picking them off, and so Poe himself is like, no, we need to retreat.
Yeah, he
which
finally learned his
shows
lesson.
growth, yeah, which is great. And so he retreats and has everybody else retreat, and then.
And again, when he says no, we need to evacuate. He's learned his lesson.
Yeah,
you know?
he has.
He really big character arc in that.
And
for
Leia,
him.
you see Leia being like, oh, he's learning.
Yeah. But yeah, so what happens is
Finn,
everybody goes away, but Finn is like, no, I'm gonna just suicide mission. You know, another one. And what happens?
And so he just tries to, and
he's trying to pull what was it, Independence Day, and just go
which is really funny because
Randy Quaid, pull a Randy Quaid and go right up the.
It just reminds me of like anytime,
the
like,
cannon.
especially this shot. It reminded me of, God, what is the Disney movie where like the bugs are flying outside the lamp and they're like, I can't help
A Bug's
it.
Life?
It's so beautiful.
A Bug's Life?
Was that what that was?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen that in forever. I can't help
That was one of
it.
your favorites.
But were there humans in that? I don't know.
No. But there was human stuff that they used.
Oh, okay.
That was just a trailer. I don't think that was in the movie.
Really?
I feel like that wasn't in the movie.
Are you
but
sure that's A Bug's Life?
I'm pretty sure. What else would it be?
I don't know because I feel like I don't know. Anyway, off topic.
I don't know. But anyway, what were you saying about that?
Oh, I just like.
When he was flying in there.
Oh, like.
Oh yeah. No, he was just angry, really angry,
Yeah.
and.
And then right before he gets to that thing, Rose comes and.
She
moves him out of the
uses
way.
her vehicle to bump his vehicle out of the way.
And then she gets hurt, and then Poe is like, "Why did you do that?" He runs to her and asks her why she did that, and she gives this cheesy line about.
No, she says, "We're not going to win this by killing what we hate. We're going to win by saving what we love."
Yeah,
It's not cheesy. It's fine.
I don't know.
I didn't have a problem with that line. I believe it from that character. She was a very like lovey character. Like I don't mean like, you know, but like
a hippie.
kind of hippie-ish. And,
I'm not a fan of hippies.
Oh wow.
Really?
Oh. Who are you a fan of?
I don't know.
That's what I thought. Anyway, so and then she kisses him after she says that, and then she passes out from injuries, and it seems like I guess everybody assumes that
It's so funny
they're a
because I
couple
really
now.
like the actress. I just think that she's too happy or something. I don't know what it is.
she's just optimistic. I think
She's like the Disney princess in a Disney movie. Like she's
all that's happening
so
here is they're
saturated.
trying to add some new personalities. You can't just have the same personalities all the time. You know what I mean? It's like just if you only think of Star Wars as Han, Luke, and Leia. Like I'm a Star Wars. I was alive when the first one came out, you know, and it's
Because
like
Rey is hopeful and stuff. It's just
yeah. I'm not talking
I don't
about
know.
being
I think-
hopeful.
I
I'm just
think-
saying this is a different kind of personality.
I think some of the lines they gave Rose were a little bit sappy. I don't know.
But she's a sappy character, and that's
guess.
just her personality. I mean, it's just that we haven't seen that in Star Wars, but that doesn't mean that it's not Star Wars. It's just a new kind of personality in Star Wars. That's how I see it.
I thought that scene was awkward.
I feel like part of what Disney wants to do with this is the point of it, and Lucasfilm, who's making it still, they want Star Wars to be able to grow, but they're having a hard time with fans who want it to be in a little box of what Star Wars is. Mm-hmm. And the trouble is, you can't tell more stories if they all have to be the same thing.
Well, I mean, like...
And they still complain when they're the same.
Like, I have no problem with it. Grow and do whatever you want. I'm just going to continue to watch the first 3, like, over and over again. Like, that's I mean, go ahead.
I'm always going to watch the first 3, but I love having more Star Wars. I do hear this a lot. I hear people saying, well, that's the Star Wars for their generation, and I have my Star Wars. And I just feel like... why not just keep enjoying it? It's
like, I will
new Star Wars.
I will always go see the next movie, the next Star Wars movie. I want to know what happens. I love it.
Well, that's cool.
Whatever. But if, like, let's say I'm sitting at home and I feel like watching Star Wars, I'm gonna put on one of the first 3.
I get that. I mean, I'm very open to the new ones.
Yeah.
I will watch. The first 3 will always be my favorites. Mm-hmm. They always will.
And sometimes I'll feel like watching Rogue One.
Yeah, and I will say that Rogue One did the best of capturing. And some people don't agree with this, but I think it did the best of capturing the
grittiness,
just everything about the originals. But not everything, but everything that Rogue One did have reminds me of the originals.
Right.
There are some things that it didn't have that the originals had.
Yeah. True.
It was a more, they kept saying it's going to be a darker movie. In some ways, I think it was darker, but for the most part, I think it was just more serious.
Yeah, which is I love the comedy, but I miss that about because the original Star Wars was
K2SO was hilarious.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's a lot of lighthearted stuff in the original films.
Yeah.
And Rogue One didn't have much lighthearted stuff. Just sort of the cynical comedy of K2SO. Mm-hmm. And he was fantastic. And it was just right with that movie. I love Rogue One. I'm a huge fan of Rogue One.
Yeah. Alan Tudyk.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
He's awesome.
So, yeah, and as far as, like... So with that scene with Rose and Finn... And well, I bet you probably don't have much of a feeling about that, do you? As far as them having
I'm not
romance
invested in
or
those
anything.
characters, really.
Yeah, I didn't think you were. And I guess a lot of people aren't. I really like Finn, and I like Rose. I don't have anything against Rose. I did feel like that was kind of like surprising that
I'm starting to ship Poe and Rey though.
Are you really?
Yeah, I am.
That's an interesting thing to bring up because when Rey rescued them and they all get on the Falcon, so we're getting back on track here, at the end when they all get back on the Falcon, and...
like, they said 2 words to each other, but I was like, they look good together.
Yeah, that was literally the first time they've ever met. And I didn't even realize
she was like,
that.
Ooh, hi, like, literally. Like, I swear.
I didn't catch that, but I did see her look over at Finn, and Finn is like putting the blanket over on
Yeah,
Rose.
I think she knew that she like kind of lost her chance with Finn.
I don't know. I don't know if that's true. It's like, so the whole movie, whenever they're thinking about getting back to the other side, they're thinking about each other. I mean, Finn will say, where's Rey? The first thing he said when he woke up, where's Rey?
Yeah.
And I know there was at least one part. I think when she's going to face off Kylo, she's like, tell Finn, and Chewie says something. He says, yeah, tell him that.
Yeah.
And so they're still very much thinking about each other, and then when they see each other, they hug each other intensely,
Mm-hmm. True.
But then he goes and he's like putting his little blanket on Rose.
So you think Rey's just keeping her options open?
Well, I didn't catch anything special like between Rey and Poe. I mean, it was interesting seeing them meet, and
I think they were very impressed with each other.
Because they heard a lot about each other, from Finn.
Yeah. Uh-oh. That sucks.
That does happen, though.
I know.
It's like yeah.
I know. Oops.
Finn might end up, yeah, don't tell your friend all about your awesome female friend that you kind of like. And but yeah, I mean, they could be a thing. I don't know. But as far as, like, even with Finn and Rose, I don't feel like for sure anything's going to happen with that. I don't even know if that was meant to be a romantic kiss. It was barely a peck.
Oh, I think Rose definitely.
But I think
likes
she has a like for him, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe, you know, these are the couples we're gonna see later. I sort of wonder if Rey is gonna be with anybody because
she's gonna be a Jedi.
Because Jedi have never been, well, supposedly are not supposed to be with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and when they cheat, it doesn't go well when they go ahead and get with somebody. And Luke, in the old stories that are now legend, he did get married and have kids. And I kind of would have thought that would have been a nice way of them saying, look, the Jedi don't have to follow those old rules because they sucked anyway. so maybe have Luke, you know, actually have a kid and actually get married. Bring in Mara Jade, I don't know, but they didn't do that. It seems like Luke never, you know, stuck with the old rules and never got with anybody, and so maybe that's what's going to happen with Rey. Maybe they're going to stick hard to those old rules, although I don't think they should because, you know, they were arrogant and they didn't.
I don't think Rey will stick to them. I really don't.
Maybe they'll put her with Poe. That will be interesting. So, you know, they escape on the Falcon, everybody, and there's sort of a renewed hope because of what Luke did. And,
and there's a really cool shot that should have been the end of the movie.
What happens in the shot? Tell me.
Well, it's the shot after Leia and...
Oh, the group shot.
Right.
Oh, yeah, there's one of those group shots of all of the rebel characters all happy together.
It's
like oh, we've made it, we've got away.
It's the one that go, you know, like they show that and it goes, ba-dum,
right.
like right away, you know, and I feel like it should have ended right there.
Yeah, but there isn't. There's another scene tacked on the end. And when you say that, it does really feel tacked on, like maybe somebody said, hey, we want you to change it. We want you to add this scene at the end.
We want more children.
No. We're like...
And I'm like, no, don't bring the kids
We're
out.
like, hey, we want this more kid-friendly, or we want this ending to sell more... I don't know.
You know, I didn't realize that there are no children in the first trilogy.
In the first trilogy?
Yeah.
Are there really no children at all?
Unless you count Ewoks as
Unless
children.
you count Ewok babies?
Yeah.
Huh.
This is why I love them so much.
But there's also hardly any women. I mean, it was a very... If you think about like what there was and what there wasn't, it was mostly just a bunch of white boys, except for a few exceptions, you know?
I need to watch that movie.
But
I do like hippies.
you like hair.
Hair. Okay.
But
the
this
scene
that's...
with Leia and first we need to finish with Leia talking to Rey, and Rey was saying how she felt Luke dying, and Leia was agreeing with her that yes, I felt Luke dying also. And then she was like, well, how are we supposed to fight without him? And Leia says, we have everything we need. And then we see the big shot.
Yeah, and she also says that Luke didn't die, you know, I forget the words that she used, but there wasn't sadness and pain or whatever,
peace,
or anger or anything. It was peace and everything, and that he had done what he wanted to do. And
Which is
it was a good note to end it on.
It's kind of sad because in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't really that big of a deal.
It didn't help the cause as much.
It was just kind of like,
it's like there's still only like 5 rebels left.
Yeah, I know.
Leia's one of them, so, but probably not, because that's not going to work out in the next one. So, yeah, there's like Poe and Rey.
Just a little
we're
too
almost
late.
down to the core group.
Just a little too late, Luke.
There's like, there's Poe, there's Rey, there's Finn, there's Rose, and there's Carrie Fisher's daughter, whose name I don't know the character's name yet. And then there's Leia, who's not going to make it into the next movie.
I love her. I hope she gets a bigger part.
Yeah.
I hope they expand her role.
And then there's just like a few other characters that made it.
But you want to talk about that last scene?
The last scene is back to the stables, and what a character is being referred to. I don't know what he's called in the credits, but people refer to him as Broom Boy now.
That's awesome.
And they're like fake.
Oh my god,
Fake video, like movie posters, of Broom Boy, a Star Wars story, and all this stuff.
that is fantastic.
Rise of the Broom Boy or something like that.
Great.
And so basically, they cut back to the stable, and there might be. Is there somebody's voiceover still going when they cut back to the stable, like Leia or Rey or anybody? Oh no, because they cut to the stable, and the kids are. One of the kids is telling the other kids
about the story.
He's like, they've got like their little homemade action figures, and they're like doing reenacting the Luke Skywalker face-off with Kylo Ren, which I don't know how they heard about it, but somehow they did. They've got some kind of ties. These little kids have some kind of ties to the rebellion, and meanwhile the broom kid. And that was kind of, I mean, it was cool
that
they were showing how the legend of Luke was going on.
It was almost Planet of the Apes, but
then the kid reaches for his broom.
No, get this. So the kid comes out of a doorway and like starts walking down the stairs with his broom.
Like
and
he's
I
about to
swear,
sing.
I'm like he's about to sing a song.
It looked like he was about to sing.
It's like Oliver. He's about to like.
He's looking up at the stars.
Thank you very much.
No, more like like sun will come out tomorrow.
That's
He like reaches for his broom, and the broom flies into his hand because he's got the Force. I mean, it was subtle, but if you're looking, you see it, right? And that's
Oh, I didn't notice that.
You never saw that? You've never seen the broom like that? It moves into his hand when he reaches out. That's the whole point.
You lying?
That's the whole point of this. It's that everybody's saying Rise of the Broom Boy and everything, but that was the whole point of that scene.
That makes it worse.
Oh my god, the whole point of the scene is that there are going to be more Jedi, and these more children are still being born with the Force, and that they can come from nothing, like these little, like, I don't know if they're slaves, but they're, it seems like maybe they are, these little poor orphans or something.
Yeah.
That anybody can rise up and be a Jedi at some point.
And he grabs that broom and he looks at the stars.
And he ends up holding it like a lightsaber.
Yeah.
He just holds it in a position that kind of looks like a lightsaber as a silhouette.
It looks natural, but the actual scene does not look natural. It looks...
What I said about this scene, and this is the scene that I don't like, and the reason is it looks like a commercial
for the theme park.
Either for Star Wars Land, Galaxy's Edge, or for Target Star Wars Force Fridays.
Yeah.
Where they get all the Star Wars merchandise. And this is because of the way it's shot. It's because the kids look like commercial kids.
Yeah.
It's because of just the crystal clear.
Of it.
The quality. It looks even different from the rest of the movie. It looks all of a sudden just that perfect quality where everything looks clean and perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it looks different from the rest of the movie, and it looks like a TV commercial right now. And it's like, I'm not one of these people who like is all negative and like, oh, Disney's trying to sell stuff all the time. But this looks like a commercial. It really did.
I remember being in the theater and being like, what was that?
Yeah, it was. What? It's an awkward moment because it doesn't really fit in with the rest of with Star Wars or the rest of the movie or anything. It's on the end, and I mean, if you want, you can just press stop before.
Oh my god, that last scene.
But I appreciate the meaning of it, like what they're trying to get across.
I do too, but they should have left that part out, that end part, leave Broom Boy out of it. And then just show the kids. You know what? They showed the kids earlier in the stables. They could have been just playing with the toys earlier before they helped out Rose and Finn. You know what I mean?
Well, they wanted to show that the Luke legend was going to be stronger than ever.
Okay, whatever. I'm just saying that maybe they should have moved it before that ends.
I see what you're saying.
Whatever. It wasn't appropriate.
Oh no, I see what you did. Maybe they could have squeezed it in before that great final shot of the group.
That great final shot of the group is so Star Wars.
It's a very Star Wars ending.
They just needed to keep that. That's it.
And if they did keep this final ending that they have, if they had just used kids that didn't look so perfect, and if it had just been a grittier looking scene, it would have been so much better. But on top of that, it felt like to me the end of a trilogy, not the end of the middle of the trilogy.
That's true too. Yeah.
Because usually that's to be continued looking.
Right.
And I mean, this doesn't, even though it's showing like how it goes on, it still wasn't to be continued cliffhanger.
You know what?
It wasn't a cliffhanger.
They're gonna make Broom Boy like the main character of the next 3 movies.
They're working on another trilogy right now. I don't think they're gonna make it about Broom Boy. At the very best, if anything, they should have some kind of point where we see Rey setting up a school and he's in it. You know, but he should just be one of many kids learning to be Jedi. That's it, you know.
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, so that's how it ends, guys. And honestly, that last little scene is the only real full scene that bothers me in this movie. And it's just the look of it. It's kind of an awkward scene, like we said.
I mean, I remember, like, when I was watching it this last time, I think the major points where I was like, oh my gosh, I can't handle this, was the Rose, like, seriously.
Really?
I was getting
Just
really
Rose?
agitated. No, not Rose herself. It was the Rose and, like, Finn little adventure as far as the... when it starts to get out of hand, like when they
just because when they were like riding those creatures through the
and it's
casino,
just getting all chaotic.
And that one character is like, oh, opera singer, fat lady.
Yes. Oh my god.
That one
I was
thing.
like, what are we watching? Beauty and the Beast? I mean, what is happening?
Yeah, that one thing was a little bit like Beauty and the Beast, but also though.
Like, this is, and actually, that is exactly when I turned to you and I was like, I cannot handle this. This is not.
I didn't remember you doing
Star
that.
Wars. I was like, this is so. There are so many things that I can't handle to this movie.
But that was just one thing.
There were more subtle ones before. I don't know.
I get like having an issue with that scene. I don't get it dragging down the entire movie, and it's really just like that one. Like the only thing that bugged me was that opera lady and some of the CGI little short characters they were trying to do comic relief with. This just because they reminded me of the prequels, and they reminded and it wasn't so much the things that they were doing. I mean, God, it wasn't Jar Jar going Misa. So how rude and all that stuff. That the friggin' Jar Jar Full House lines that he kept saying. And I don't even hate Jar Jar, but if you cut out most of his dialogue, he would have been fine.
Yeah.
But they were stealing lines from Full House and just having Jar Jar say them and saying that's comedy, and it's not.
It was bad.
I mean, the little comedy moments, like with that one guy putting the coins into a BB-8, he thought it was a slot machine. That was fine, except that the guy was CGI, and it was like, okay, you're just reminding me of the prequels.
Yeah.
And also of maybe even more than the prequels, the way that they changed Jabba the Hutt's scene in Return of the Jedi with adding CGI, like musical numbers that they felt like they were from the prequel, you know?
Yeah. I mean, And this is my CGI rant again, but like, I just don't get it. I don't get why or how you can be like a professional artist working on these movies and think that that quality of CGI is acceptable. I don't understand.
Well, I stand by the idea that, I mean, yeah, in these, I'm not saying that the CGI looks realistic in this movie, in this particular movie, but I stand by what I said. I've seen CGI before.
You'll have to show me.
But it's usually animals that have fur.
I would be ashamed. I would be embarrassed to use this stuff.
But even the way that these characters, even the way they move, you know it's CGI. But I'm used to it from the prequels and everything. And
I mean, is it
adding them into the old
CGI than puppets?
I don't think it's cheaper, but I think it's easier. It's still a lot of work and takes a long time, but there is...
Sometimes easier doesn't pay off.
Well, yeah, but movies are made on deadlines and things, and it might be faster.
People
I'm
aren't
not
working
sure.
as hard anymore. Anyway.
There is more freedom of what you can do. I know you're like, puppets can do anything. Yeah, but they will... The more that you have them do, the more difficult it is to not let it show that they're puppets, you know what I mean?
Limit it.
And
limit it, like they did.
But that's what I'm saying. See, with the CGI characters, and the reason they use them is they don't have to limit anything. That character can do literally anything.
I don't think that's preferable.
But when you're a filmmaker, you want a character to do something, you want them to do that. You don't want to have to make negotiations because of limited technologies.
Until the technology's ready. I'm just telling you.
Well, I'm not totally disagreeing with that.
You should not.
But I've seen very impressive CGI.
Makes your movie look cheap.
This movie doesn't look cheap. This looks like a very expensive movie. And you know it does. I know you don't like it, but cheap isn't the right word. It's just...
I didn't say I didn't like the movie. I just don't.
No, I'm saying you don't like CGI. I know you don't like CGI, but there's nothing cheap about using CGI.
Keep it out of my Star Wars.
It's in all the Star Wars now, except for the Ewok movies. You might just only be able to watch the Ewok movies from now on. But so overall, the movie, you like it?
I liked it. Yeah.
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 Well, I really love this movie, but it has a few issues. Did you like it more? You like Force Awakens more than this one? Oh, yeah. Where would you rank this with the Star Wars movies?
Oh, okay. I'm not even going to mention the ranking of the first three because that's just preference.
That would be interesting to hear, but where would you put this one?
This would be after the first three, the original three, then you would have Rogue One, then Force Awakens, then this one, and then I don't even care about the prequels, so like whatever with the prequels.
There you go. So this is your bottom.
Yeah, this is my bottom.
Well, I mean the prequels are your bottom, and this is barely. Wow, that's interesting. You know, because it's interesting because when I saw this with her at the movies, she was like, "I loved it. I loved it." Mm-hmm. But I was suspicious that I could never get you to see it again.
Yeah, I was suspicious of myself. I was like, why do I not want to go see this again?
And it was very frustrating for me because I was hoping to go see it at the IMAX, which I never could get you to do it.
Yeah.
So IMAX here is like, you got to go downtown. I'm just really...
I mean, usually when I love...
I don't want to go do it by myself.
Usually when I love a movie, I'm like, yes, let's go see it again. Let's go to the IMAX. I mean, that's how I was with Force Awakens, and that's how I was with The Conjuring. The Conjuring 2, I went like 3 times, you know. I mean, like, I'll go see it again. But with this one, I just could not bring myself
Well,
to
it's funny, because I think this is a better movie than Force Awakens.
Interesting.
And I loved Force Awakens. But,
I would have much rather had more of Luke in The Force Awakens, but... Also, I hated Kylo Ren in The Force Awakens, so I don't know. They're kind of...
I liked Kylo Ren a lot in this one. I liked him
a lot in the second half of this.
I didn't love him in The Force Awakens, but I mean, I didn't hate him, but I thought he was kind of a weak villain. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think that in this one. I thought he was good. Yeah, I mean, I just have a few little nitpicks that don't really bother me with this.
That's good.
except for that last scene, which I can deal with, you know.
Yeah. Just pause it before that comes on.
No, I mean I'll watch it. I can deal with watching it too. Because I do get what they're trying to say with it.
I will say that I really enjoy of the original trilogy. I enjoy the calmness and the breaths that the films took they didn't have to be constantly action packed. They took time in their scenes, and I know it was a product of the 70s, and that's why I love the 70s, 80s and 70s, and that's why I love those films, because they actually, you know, gave you a chance to process things back then. But I just love it. I mean, I can fall asleep in a good way to the original trilogy. Like, it's comforting to me, and it's beautiful, and I can really take it in, and it's gorgeous, and I understand I understand what they're trying to get across to people, you know what I mean, as far as like you know, hope and stuff, like without it being, you know, so
well, I see what you're saying. I didn't feel like they were
I just wish
cramming it down the throats in this one, but I do see what you're saying, that they are more verbal about it.
I wish that people would
and they do it in
understand
a lot
that
of
less
movies.
is more, and I don't know, the film, it's so...
Well, adventure films had long, quiet moments of really good dialogue.
Right.
And that includes Lucasfilm stuff.
Absolutely.
Stuff like Raiders of the Lost Ark. The best ones had quiet, thoughtful discussions between, you know, the characters. And I mean, there's a little bit of that in this. It's not that there isn't.
But like, when you're getting into one, it's like they immediately change to an action scene or something.
Yeah, but you'd be hard pressed to find a movie nowadays that doesn't do that.
I mean, that whole...
And it's sad.
Like, take A New Hope for 1 second. I mean, when Obi-Wan is speaking to Luke in the cave or whatever reason, and they're talking about Leia's hologram, they're just long, super long chat. Like, I bet that was like at least 5 minutes long. And
but it's plot exposition.
I appreciate those moments, but those moments are throughout all of the trilogy movies. You know what I mean? Like, I love it. I love those, and I love how they used to make film. And nowadays it feels like, unless you're watching like a love story movie or something like that, they don't take that time anymore. You know what I mean? And I that disappoints me a lot. It really does.
Yeah. No, I can see that.
Which is funny because it has nothing... Everybody's all mad about the characters and stuff or whatever, and my problem is totally different. I don't know.
No, I see what you're saying, and I don't disagree. I think you can still have a great movie that is more focused on action and stuff.
Yeah.
I do think this is, for the most part, I think this is a great movie. I think it's got a few issues, but for the most part, I think it's a great movie. But... I mean, it's not a masterpiece movie.
Yeah. Which,
you know, arguably you could call at least Empire and even A New Hope, you could call them masterpiece movies, you know. And I love Jedi. I really love Jedi.
It's like the original trilogy had just the right balance of like
of everything,
the fight scenes and like the you know, the intimate conversations.
And there's just something about the audiences now that
they can't hold their attention to
they're and I mean, you know, there's studies on this, and they can blame video games and things like that, and the fact that everybody now grows up with a computer in their hand. I can get that. That might be true.
People who would not watch a black and white film.
I've known that too.
How is that even possible?
I think that's probably more common than you think.
That is insane.
I'm surprised when I find people who do watch black and white films, unless they're like really obnoxious hipster about it. But no, I totally know what you're saying.
It's insane to me. I don't know.
But like I try to find, you know, the good in any movie I watch, and I think it can still be a good movie like that, even if you're focused on the action. But as far as, it would be nice, yeah.
It would be nice.
It is a movie that you're gonna feel in the long term, you're gonna feel more like that was a
You're
really,
gonna feel more connected with the characters.
I mean, a
for
classic,
one.
a classic movie.
Exactly.
If you're trying to make something that they're not trying to, I don't think they are. They should be.
They're not trying to make classics.
Trying to make nobody's
right.
hardly, except for when they're trying to make Oscar bait. Nobody's trying to make classic movies anymore.
That's so sad.
And it's sad because a lot of the ones that are Oscar bait are kind of dull, and it's not because they have dialogue and stuff. It's just a lot of times it's like you can take subject matter like this and make it with like really thoughtful dialogue.
Yeah, so basically, I really liked the movie. I had a couple of minor quibbles, but they were really minor. I feel like they're nitpicks. And my sister didn't like it as a Star Wars movie. Thought it was a good sci-fi movie. As you heard, her main complaints were not the typical complaints. She didn't really care much about the typical complaints. It was mostly the fact that she just doesn't like CGI and things like that. Some of the lines and things like that. So you know, that was the basic deal there. The interesting thing I take from all that is that the popular complaints for Last Jedi didn't really bother us, and in many cases seemed really stupid. So there's your general assessment. I loved it. I don't know. You heard her statements. I think it's a great movie. There are, like I said, a couple little things. Anyway, that's about it, guys. I didn't get to ask her about the Han Solo movie, but I'm super excited for it. Just saw the new trailer, like the big trailer, and it looks amazing to me. I'm excited. So, that's it for now, guys, and we'll see you on the next Disney by Moonlight. Like, comment, subscribe. BB-8, is everything good? Good, okay, cool. Okay, we're getting out of here.